Welcome to the Hop Edition podcast, brought to you in association with the Malt Miller, your go-to choice for premium homebrewing ingredients and equipment. Whether you're a beginner starting out or an experienced brewer, the Malt Miller has got you covered. So for top quality products and customer service, jump over to themaltmiller.co.uk and tell them the Hop Edition sent you. We would also like to thank all our Patreons for their continued support with running and developing the pod. If you would like to become a member and gain access to exclusive perks and benefits, head over to patreon.com/the Hop Edition. Now it's time to get this pod started, so crack open a homebrew and enjoy the episode. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 104 of the Hop Edition podcast. Tonight we are talking to Tom Bacon from Barth Haas to chat all things hops and advanced hop products. So Barth Haas are a company soaked in history, founded in 1794. For 225 years, the company has grown from its roots as a Franconian hop merchant to become an expert in flavour for the best beers all over the world. I feel like I'm kind of doing Tom's intro for him here, but we'll carry on anyway. We'd like to say a big thanks to our partner sponsor, the Malt Miller, premier supplier of all things homebrew. Swing by their website to check out the great range in stock, including the Black Friday sales section with some great savings currently available, but probably not for that much longer. While you're over there, check out the Hop Edition recipe section where you'll find a range of beers from the podcast, including creations from previous podcasts, guests, and our own recipes. Check out the Black Friday sales. Lots of banging deals on there at the minute. And of course, bearing in mind who we've got on the pod right now, you can find a whole bunch of awesome Barth Haas products over there, including exciting things like Spectrum and Incognito, which we're probably going to talk about with Tom a little bit more. So say hello, Tom. How are you doing? And tell us what you've got in the glass for your warm-up beverage, or your however many warm-up beverages you've had now to get us started.
Right. Hi, guys. Good to be on. I'm Tom. Been with the company now just up to 2 years. Before that, I was with Wanna Beyond for like just over 2 years. And then before that, I was with Brew York for a long time. So many people know me from those adventures. I am currently drinking. So this afternoon, as alluded to, I spent the afternoon at a brewery launch in the next village over from me, Ticking Clock. So I'm drinking their 6% Citra IPA called Every Second Counts, which is using T90 Citra, Lupamax Citra, and Spectrum as well. And it is tasting very, very nice. I've got an entire growler filled that I'm quite happily chewing through. So it's going to be a great evening.
A great evening. Yes, it is, man. Yes, it is. Just to follow on from what Tricky's just said on the intro, I have to skip back a little bit. We were talking about the recipes from some of our guests. Those of you who know that we had Moot Brewery on, and we got the recipe for Kappa. That recipe was uploaded to the Malt Miller website. I don't know if Stiffo's ticked the box yet to actually get it live. But if he has, you can now get the recipe for Kappa from Moot Brewery on the Malt Miller website. There's also a bunch of recipes that's gone up by us for.
Yeah.
So that will be going out.
I don't think they're live currently because Sniffo's been a bit busy with Black Friday, but there's going to be a whole bunch of them coming through probably next week, I think.
Yeah,
exactly. It's pineapple passion stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
That we all put up. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. My pineapple passion beer is still
yours is stunning.
Done. It's also done.
That's like you drank it all, Chris.
Gone.
Wow,
it got smashed.
It is.
It
I
got
can
smashed.
believe it.
We had some mates round and it fucking disappeared, and all I did was cook burgers.
So you're not drinking that beer, Chris, but what have you got in the glass?
Oh my God, look at that for an ice cold segue. So I went over to see a gentleman in Barnsley called Mr. Ian Benfell, and he gave me an actual carrier bag full of beers.
Wow.
So I am drinking his, if it bothers to focus, is Admiral Nelson British Golden Ale, 4.5%. No idea what's in it because I haven't done the QR code. But I have to say, it tastes really, really good. It tastes like a British golden ale should, you know. Lovely malty base, really good aroma on the nose, very floral to be weird. But yeah, it's going down an absolute treat. The carbonation was much better when I stupidly put it. It's very clear.
That's good.
But it the nucleated glass isn't helping. Oh, there you go, Admiral and Nelson. Thanks, Ian. But this is an absolute cracker.
That was a tough beer to name for him, wasn't it?
It was. But I had almost as hard as the lyrics to No Limits by Two Unlimited.
It's actually built of a name as well. But yeah.
Say again?
It's a belter of a name. Yeah, Admiral Nelson.
It's a belter of a beer. I have to say, this is a really nice beer. If you haven't got any, message Ian and see if he'll send you some, because this is an absolute fucking cracker. So yeah, that's what it is. And I would give this out of 5. I'd give it 1. Do you know? I'll give this solid 4.2. It's a nice beer, this one.
Cool.
Nice one. Andy, do you want to go next?
Oh, yeah, so it's my Czech Pils. It's tasting... Do you know what it tastes like? It tastes like a lager, which is absolutely dynamite.
Does it smell lagery as well?
Definitely smells lagery. It's got that slightly sulphury, but more kind of... On Wednesday night, I don't know, Tricky, if we're giving it away a little bit, but we did your hop tester. And yeah, it smells lagery. Just like that as well. So yeah, no, it's good.
Very good. Owen?
Well, I am drinking... Well, I don't want to spoil anything here, but I'm drinking my Pomona beer.
Okay.
Ooh.
So this was fermented with Lalleman's new yeast.
Which is...
Next Saturday at 8 p.m, boys. Next Saturday at 8.
Next Saturday at 8 p.m.
Beer
we'll be
meals.
talking a lot more about these beers. And all I'm going to say at this point is it's tasting pretty good, and it's definitely a little bit different.
Is it clear?
I would say.
Can I see it?
Yeah, it's a big hazy boy.
Super
Oh,
clear.
wow, right, so it's milky.
And it came in at 6.3%.
Yes, we're going to get so wrecked.
Yep.
Mine's a 6.2, so yep.
Mine's 7.9.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, dear God.
We didn't think this one out, did we?
Dipper time.
Tom, it's
Chris,
going to be one of
say
those evenings, buddy.
I can see it descending very quickly. Is it time to crack the barley wine open now, or I'll just wait?
I'd give it a few minutes. Come on, Chicky, what are you drinking then?
Right,
you
so
slaphead?
I thought I would go with a beer that I've used some advanced hop products in. So it's got
nice.
a little bit of Eldorado Incognito in there and some Eldorado pure hop pellets as well. So I did have a couple of beers that I've been using Spectrum in as well recently. But yeah, one of those was the Laumund Pomona beer, which being nearly 8%, I thought I'd leave that as a starter beer for the pod and save that for next week. So this is more of a kind of West Coast style American pale ale, a bit more of an old school kind of recipe. There's some Chinook in the boil on this, and then also with the Eldorado, a bit of Strata and Mosaic late on. So yeah, it's Eldorado Incognito. I really like Incognito for sort of pushing that flavour from the hops, and it really does bring out the sort of Eldorado note of that kind of like watermelon candy kind of vibe, which is offsetting that kind of piney, resiny kind of West Coast sort of flavour quite nicely as well. So really enjoying it. I'd give it probably 3.6 out of 5 for me.
Okay.
Critical.
There we go.
With your own work,
Okay,
Tricky.
all the beers are done, boys. All the beers are done. We know what Tom's drinking, and he's got a growler of it, so we're on a winner. Okay.
Better get through these questions quick.
Right, Tom, before you start drooling out your ears, tell us a little bit about Barth Haas, what they do, and what's your role at the company.
So Barth Haas, we're the largest hop merchants in the world. About 75% of all beers in the world have some sort of our product in it. Also, one of the 2 oldest in the world, as Rich said earlier. I deal with small and medium-sized breweries in the UK, and also work very closely with the guys at Malt Miller to facilitate the best quality products going into the homebrew chain. So it's the smallest but the most fun part of my job, I'd say. Doing things like Love and Beer and also the series of talks I've done across the UK with the homebrew crowd has been remarkable. And also the quality of homebrew at the moment is insane compared to when I first started. And when I first started with my dad, like brewing on those Wilco's kits and drinking what can be nicely described as
Paint
warm
stripper.
brown.
Brown.
And as worse, paint stripper.
With that twang.
Just, that little je ne sais quoi, that slight, this tastes funky. But yeah, so I deal with small and medium-sized breweries in the commercial side of things. So it's the guys who are pushing the envelope, and it's the guys who are kind of at the forefront of innovative brewing in the country, I'd say.
I have to say, I have been using Barth Haas products for a while since they started, selling them almost exclusively at the malt miller, and I've not had a bad word to say about them. To be fair, I haven't got a bad word to say about some of the other companies' hops as well, but specifically yours, the way that the malt miller treat them when they arrive, they're always on point. It's always very, very good.
I want to give a shout out to the malt miller as much as possible. Like the way that they package ours and like repack it is the same quality as what we're doing on a commercial grade. So when you're buying from the malt miller, you're literally getting the same hops as what we're going to commercial. And again, like 10 years ago, that was almost unthinkable. And whereas you was like, here's some brown dust that was a hop a very long time ago.
I could name some local homebrew shops, mate, that still do that.
It's just
the sad-looking packet of Fuggles on the sunny shelf in the window.
On the windowsill,
nice and warm.
Nice and brown and crispy.
Grab some off the vine over there, mate.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty mental. It's like the quality that and there's a reason why we've partnered up with a malt miller. It's the reason why we're sponsored by them. There's a reason why we absolutely love Rob, Joe, Stiffo, Reiki, and all the guys and all the girls at the malt miller, is because they share our passion for making the best beer that you can. And that's basically all we're trying to do, is trying to help people make better beer and talk bollocks and drink beer. And that's kind of all we do. So the bottom line is, I love the malt miller, absolutely adore those guys, and it's important that we do give them the props that they deserve, because as you've said, I've never had a single problem with their hop. Has anybody had a single problem with the hops from a malt miller?
No.
Never.
No.
Only when they're out of stock.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good. And that falls to you, Tom, because you're allowing them to get out of stock.
I'm allowing them to get out of stock.
It's your fault.
How dare you?
We know the message.
It is remarkable with the malt miller. Like, I'll see them place the order with us on the Monday, and the hops will be delivered on the Tuesday, and then they're available to you guys on the Thursday, Friday. That's how
quality, isn't it?
Tom, you'll need to throw that pen away, mate.
Yeah, get rid of that pen, man.
I was just about to say
fiddling.
Fiddle with something else.
A vein was starting to pulse inside my head there.
I'll fiddle with something else.
Go fiddle with something else. So, one of the things that we want to talk about today, specifically because you guys are absolutely nailing it, okay, is these kinds of things, okay? It's your Galaxy, Incognito, Spectrums, and all the other bits and bobs. I'm sure that later on in the podcast, maybe towards the end of that growler, maybe halfway through the barley wine, we're going to be talking about Galaxy, because I posed a very interesting question to you over email, which I am still excited to hear what you've got to say. I've not even read that part of the email. Like, I skipped over it, man. So let's start delving into the Incognitos and the Spectrums and the advanced hop products and these bags of liquid goop that we keep picking up. Are the hops used for Incognito and Spectrum specifically selected purely on their commercial viability, or are there characteristics that make different varietals work better in these?
So there are certain varieties that work better, but it's more about how their usage is meant to be in the brewing process. So like making Magnum Spectrum when it's a dry hop would be almost pointless. So it is meant to be that, because all the hops that go into Spectrum and into Incognito as well are true to type, is what we always say. And we'll come on to that in a little bit.
Explain that now, because you've just said it. You might as well.
Right. So true to type is something that we strive for at Barth Haas, is that if you buy a Citra hop, it is going to taste like a Citra hop. It's not going to taste like, oh, this is really good, or this is, oh, that was a shit thing. And that kind of comes down to the
Hop
blending.
selection? Is that hop selection? Yeah.
It's hop selection,
And
but
blending.
it's hop selection on a
because
on a 500-ton sort of scale.
As you said earlier, you're one of the biggest hop distributors as such. So then it's like you have to have as much Citra as you can get your hands on, but then
so Citra is only available through two companies, which are us or YCH. Because Citra was, I don't, you guys might have seen the HBC tag.
Yep.
A lot. So that stands for Hop Breeding Company, which is a 50-50 owned company owned by Barth Haas and by YCH. So those hops are only being allowed to be sold through either us or YCH.
Yep.
So with Citra, it's grown, well, for the past couple of years, it's been grown more in America than any other hop combined. It's an insane amount. But an Oregon Citra grown on the south side of the valley is going to taste completely different to a Washington hop grown east facing, a little bit more sun than
the
you
terroir.
want.
Yeah.
The terroir. It's Matt Curtis listening there. But so being able to blend these in, we've got a panel of guys who I like to think that I know my way around hops and I know my way around a pint. But these guys, the super taste and the super smellers, being able to get this to be completely uniform. And it is a little bit of a German output. When you talk to the guys from like Paulana or Augustina, which I've had the pleasure to do over my career, they're not really wanting something fun. They're just wanting something that tastes exactly the same every single time that they use it. And isn't that what we're really trying to get? It's why I find breweries who do hop selection a little bit odd if you are still just looking for that Citra taste. If you are looking for that Citra with a little bit of mint taste or something like that, that can be understandable.
Really?
Right, cool. But if you're wanting that just it to taste like Citra, then the blends are going to be so much better overall. Okay. And then you have hops that can't be blended. So Brew One or Amarillo, these are grown on individual farms. And so that's why you see a little bit more up and down, a little bit more inconsistency through the years. Like I remember in 2018 at Brew York, we did a beer called It's This Way Tony, which was a single hop Amarillo there. And we were using the 2017 crop and it was beautiful. It's like Satsumas. It was amazing. And the next brew we did, it's like, why does it taste like diesel? And that was due to the cross and the crop year. But because you can't blend it because it only comes from that one farm, it opens it more up to inconsistencies. Right. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a different thing.
Is that a limitation for if it is going into like liquid products, as far as that consistency not being there, or the production level not being high enough to give you that?
If we are going to have the issues with liquid products that we think it's a bad crop or a good crop, we can take previous year's crops back into that
because it's
try
not
and make it
it's not date stamp. It's not year stamped, is it?
Especially with Spectrum, that you don't want the alphas, so it's not really as applicable.
Is that the same with the pure hops? Is it you guys do?
No, pure hop is straight off the vine. So BBC stands for Boston Brewing Company, and it was originally developed as a co project.
It was like a T45 or something? Or...
Well, T45 was any sort of enhanced pellet, so you can say that about a lot of things. It was the next step up from a T90. Whereas BBC is about 10%. I normally say 10% more efficient than a T90 pellet. But what we're doing there is removing more of the vegetative matter from it, rather than actually enhancing it in the same way as Lupamax, which is a cryogenic enhance. So it's a little bit different, but it is still closer to a T90 than it is to an advanced product.
Okay. So let's jump back to the original question then. Are they selected on commercial viability, or there are characteristics that make them work different depending on what the variety is?
It's a bit of both with that. We do, if you are a brewery, and there's certain ones that I can't say who use it, but there's certain breweries that will approach us and go, hello, we are using Spectrum. We want to use Spectrum. Can you make out of this certain hop? And then sometimes it's been so successful it opens up to the wider market. Or sometimes we've been sat there going, do you know what would be a good idea here? Nelson Spectrum, and then gone and made it. Or we've left the production guys alone for too long and they've just dicked about with a load of hops and gone, we've made 20 kilos, do you want it? And then it goes out to certain breweries who would use as like test cases.
Okay,
it's great feedback.
Is there not a minimum batch size, and that's why you don't want to take the risk either?
There's a minimum batch size, but it's more the procurement and the actual execution and the packaging size of things. The minimum batch side isn't as, I won't say what it is, but it's not as large as what you think it is.
Okay.
But it's more about the entire chain of work and the development and the blending that goes into actually making it, rather than the actual.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Full stop product.
I mean,
cool.
Based on the fact that it is literally goop in a pouch, I'm pretty sure you're not going to tell us how you make it. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask the question.
I know. So just to have the viewers and listeners have a look behind the curtain, Chris has been badgering me all week to try and tell him how we make Spectrum, to such an extent that I went to talk to our legal department and they questioned how I knew how much about how we made Spectrum.
Please delete that from your memory.
It was the how much hops does it take us to make a kilo of Spectrum? It's like, Tom, you're not allowed to know that. It's like, oh.
So as we can't go really into that in any sort of detail, would you be able to sort of tell us a little bit about the kind of history of the actual development process for those products, as far as when they started being
the Incognito and Spectrum has kind of been developed side by side. So Barth Haas is kind of you can tell by the name, two companies as one. We've got the Barth family, which is the German side of the Haas family, which has been the American side. We've also got HBA, who is the Australian wing, who are slightly different. So the Americans were working on this liquid hop project called Incognito. So this is based on Flex, which I'm sure many of you guys have used over the years. I think it's one of the most underrated brewing products on the market right now. I think every single home brewer should be using Flex. It's just so easy and so efficient. So they were then using Flex as a base to be able to put certain varietal specific hops into it, and they developed Incognito.
So Flex, Flex is a bittering, isn't it?
It's So it's 60 to 65% pre-isomerized alpha acid.
Yeah.
And so they were working on that, and that's made by our American wing, whereas in the UK we're working on Spectrum, originally developed to be like as a dry hop, which is made in a completely different way and alongside of it. And the story goes that they sat down together and went, boys, we've made this. And then the other team turned to them and went, boys, we've made this. And then we realized that they work very well for different products, because Spectrum is essentially not quite zero alpha acid, but a lot more true to type. It's up to about 8% if we're talking Galaxy, whereas with Incognito, because it's based on the FlexPack platform, that's about 50 to 60%. So it works amazingly well in Whirlpool. So if you're trying to pick up your IBUs from the hot side, that works incredibly well. Whereas if you're looking at dry hop or very late edition and dip hopping, well, Spectrum, because it doesn't have those alphas, you don't need to worry about dipping your temperature in your Whirlpool down too much.
And that's why we've got a difference between Incognito and Spectrum then? Yeah,
so the two products in the liquid varieties made for two very different things. But then I get calls from guys, breweries that will go unnamed, such as Tartarus in Leeds, who are using Incognito cold side and who are using Spectrum hot side, and they're having remarkable results with it. And that's kind of why I love dealing with the small and medium breweries, because they're just kind of sat there going, fuck it, let's see what happens. And sometimes it turns out great. Sometimes it turns out terrible, but quite a lot of times it turns out great.
Just a quick question before we move on. The Haas side of the company, do they have a Formula One team? The Haas side.
I don't think so. No,
It's
that
not.
is a
It's
different
not
one.
Gene Haas.
Because I looked that up because I thought, is this how I get tickets to the F1? But no,
I was thinking exactly the same thing. Yeah. Okay. Right. I've just been told I've got to drink an old ale next by Ian, and he's big, so I don't want to argue with him. So yeah, I'm going to be drinking an old ale next, just to let you know. But yeah, as far as the sort of development side of it goes, roughly what was the time scale in the development?
Oh, well, how long is a piece of string? It's been something, the development of kind of hop products. If you look back on the 70s were all just using leaf. The 80s, you had kind of pellets first coming in, and then the late 90s, you had BBC and things like that. And it's been slowly developing over. A lot of commercial brewers are just looking for efficiency, and to be able to remove more and more vegetative matter out of a hop is going to be better. For every kilo of T90 you use in a beer, you're losing 10 litres of beer. So if you're dry hopping even, 10 kilos into a 15 hec tank, you're losing, 2 kegs worth of beer.
Yeah.
And so to be able to develop it like that, it's always been the strive for efficiency without the cost of quality.
Okay. Right.
You can see those kind of increases in yield even at the homebrew scale as well, I've found. I mean, I've done beers with, your Flex and your Incognito and your Spectrum replacing quite obviously a significant portion of what would be T90 pellets. And with beers that you're making nowadays that are, really heavily late hopped, you can
struggle to fill
several
a keg,
litres. Yeah, exactly. You could do like a 23 litre batch and be short filling a keg. Whereas I would go from that to doing it with those products and having a bit left over after filling a keg. So, you're talking potentially 2-3 litres of extra beer, which is not to be sniffed at when you're spending maybe, 30 quid on the hops going into it. So, yeah.
Yeah, £60 brew or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think the thing that's been hard enough to convince commercial brewers is that Spectrum's probably per kilo efficiency about 5-6 quid more expensive a kilo, but you're getting so much more beer out.
Yeah.
And also, speaking as a guy who was a brewery assistant at one point and had to get into the kettle and dig that shit out, or had to get into a FV and had to spray it down. Do you know what? Advanced products are way forward on that front.
That's true, isn't it? Yep, cleanup's easier.
Yeah,
cool.
They're a bit sticky though, aren't they?
They're a bit sticky until as long as if they cool. I say to quite a lot of brewers to treat them like cornflakes in a bowl, that you wash them up as soon as you finish your cornflakes. You don't leave it until the next morning because they harden to the same texture.
Welded. Yeah, welded.
Absolutely. It's how they used to cut glass on a commercial level is actually the cornflakes that have been left overnight. It's remarkable. I think it's been studied for research.
I think they also bricklay with porridge because I'm fairly certain that's harder than concrete.
If you do get like flecks on the side of your vessel or something like that, give it a good spray with isopropyl, leave it 5-10 minutes, and then it should come straight out. Yeah. Pretty easy.
Break out the oxyacetylene torch, boys. Stop being a pussy.
I got a great tip from Lance actually for the homebrew scale with Incognito. And I know, like, you're supposed to use it with a little portion of sort of pellets anyway, which works really well. But he mentioned sort of basically taking a little bit of beer or wort out of the kettle, putting like your Whirlpool hot pellets into the jug, and then putting the Incognito on top of that and giving it a bit good stir up, so it really binds onto it. Goes back into the kettle, and I've done that recently and like didn't get any of that sticky residue sort of building up around the outside.
So this becomes such a common thing in the commercial side. We actually had Barth Haas branded spatulas made. When guys are filling luncheons. We made 50. I think this is the last one.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
This is going to be worth a collector's item in a few years, mate.
More importantly,
sounds like Tricky needs it.
My wife would use that while she's making curry.
Oh, gives an extra little je ne sais quoi to your beer, is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically, yeah. My wife does make a banging curry, though, to be fair. She is excellent when it comes to that. Right, so we've talked about the history. We've got the most information we're going to get out of you about how they're made. Quick question about, are there going to be any other varietals put into Incognito and Spectrum lineup? Is there anything in the works?
So
is there anything that you can break now that's going to give people a little oomph?
So I'm pretty happy you've asked this, because I've been working on this project for about a year now. So it started about this time last year. I did a collab with Mighty Johnny Horn up at Holy Goat. It was the first time that we've used Spectrum in a wild fermentation project, because honestly, we had no idea what it would do. You get such high biotransformation. We think mainly because there's no vegetative matter in it. We want to see what would happen if we fermented with bread. And Johnny just went, yeah, fuck it, come up to Dundee, we'll go out for some pints and we'll blend a beer together. And that beer was called Spectral Eclipse, and one of the finest beers I've ever had a hand in. Honestly, absolutely incredible. The Brett really brought out it was a Eclipse and Galaxy wild fermented blonde, and the pineapple notes and the mango notes absolutely sang. On the other side of things, I work with my colleague Will Longmate, and he was working in the background about making English Spectrum. So one of the main issues that we have with English hops is the fact that they are quite diastatically active. So you will get a lot of hop creep using English hops. So with Spectrum, you do not get any hop creep because there's no vegetative matter. We thought, well, let's sort that out. So alongside an independent hop farm called Hewkins, which is just down outside Tunbridge Wells, we've developed a series of, I think, 5 English Spectrums, which have been Bramlin Cross, Target, Challenger, Ernest, and another one. And using those, I've done a series of collabs. No, it's not Fuggles. It's not Fuggles. I'll come to us in a bit. And so the beer that I'm most looking forward to that I've had a hand in this year, there's a brewery in Manchester called Balance, run by James and Will, doing some of the finest wild firm beers in the country. And we've worked with them to produce a earnest, wild, fermented, fully English project using Spectrum. And I'm very much hoping it'd be great. And so we ended up with loads of this English Spectrum. And this is still, like what I was saying earlier, it's still very much trial. We're seeing how it's going to work. We don't know what people are really going to be using English Spectrum for. We worked with one of my personal favourite breweries in the country, a brewery called Red Willow over in Macclesfield. And we did a series of English hopped Spectrum beers with them, and they turned out phenomenally. So hopefully, within the next 6 months, you'll be seeing a series of English Spectrums released on the market.
Please,
and then on the other
so, sounds like Fappa. Sorry, Kappa.
Don't get Chris started fapping
over
the English hop products.
No, I'm excited about that. I'll be honest, very excited.
But then on the other side of things, like, you need to remember, quite a lot of these products have started out for the massive macro breweries, and then they find their homes in the craft space. We're doing Tango Spectrum, which has been phenomenal. I don't know if you guys have used Tango hop.
No.
So it's a pretty much brand new German variety, only released last year. So they turned to the English branch and went, we have made a West Coast IPA hop. And we tried it, and they made a very good lager hop. It was not anything like... It is a daughter of Cascade, but it's got a lot more German in it. But it works incredibly well in dry hopped lager. And when you're dry hopping lager, you don't really want that vegetative
Yeah,
matter going
exactly.
on. So he made a load of Spectrum, and that's gone out to
Is it
Fell
orange? Does that
up
bring
in-
orange or
That's
something?
kind of the same with all of those like newer German varieties, isn't it? They some of them are really nice, but they're not
Halte
quite
Blanc.
as punchy as your American.
But
kind of things
Mandarina
they're
Bavaria,
starving.
innit? Yeah. and-
Yeah.
I'll take 100 grams of Tango Spectrum. Thank you very much. Yeah, since pretty much all I make is lagers, I'll take some of that. But yeah, we've had a question from Richard Brooks, who, I mean, don't shout too loudly at him because, I mean, he's a bit weird, but there we go. He said, why bother with continuing T90 production if the AHP are so good?
Uh-huh.
Why continue producing leaf hops? For certain breweries and in certain places, each one has their place. None of these things are meant to replace the predecessor. I still get excited for green hop season, which is a style of hops that fell out of style 150 years ago.
That's right.
Each
That's
one-
it's made a big comeback over the last few years, hasn't it? Green hops.
I think the logistics and also the fact that quite a lot of
Yeah.
breweries are really caring more about how they are brewing. So yeah, it's not there to supersede. It's there to find a place alongside of other things. I mean, you've got quite a lot of breweries that are using leaf in the boil because it makes sense. T90 in Whirlpool, and then T90 in Spectrum as a dry hop because that's how it works.
I was gonna say is talking about the green hops is it wet hops? Yeah, is the Saz Pilsner that I made has got about 15 grams of wet hops that I grew in my back garden.
Oh,
Your own SARS, nice.
My own Saz, made in Scotland. So yeah, it went
So
at the
a while-
very
Nothing like
end.
German says.
I'm sure you can
Nah.
really
Or
taste
check.
that. 15 grams, Andy.
Oh,
Make
while
all the
ago-
difference.
do you know what? That's what's singing to me. At the moment. It's that earthy. It's that
It's that-
earthy sort
That
of.
top note of miserable Scottish weather that's just coming through.
It's
What's it
singing,
doing?
and I
Old
would
Lang
walk 500 miles. Is that what
it
it's
is
singing?
interesting when people talk about like the terroir of things. I mean, you used to talk about like English wine and things. And I was up in Edinburgh for Gravity Fest, which is Barney's beer festival in Summer Hall last year, and someone came with Glaswegian wine. So it was made out of grapes grown just outside of Glasgow.
Yeah.
It was one of the worst things I've ever put into my mouth.
No.
It was absolute, but they're growing grapes in Glasgow. That's mental.
You need I think you need like a greenhouse type thing to grow it in, because I stayed at a cottage when I was over in Arran, and they had that. It was almost like the whole kind of side sort of like a greenhouse, or what is it, a conservatory type thing, and they had the grapes growing through the house, sort of in the side of the house sort of thing, and it was amazing. And they were like, yeah, we pick all these and then just crush it all down and make a wine. But yeah, maybe
Tom, are you sure you weren't just drinking
global warming.
Buckfast?
Our Buckfast, of course, famously made in Devon, which I always think
By the
made
monks.
in Devon by monks. Like,
Caffeinated.
Gary's just described it. It's an orangery.
An orange.
an
one.
orange.
An orangery. Well done,
That's
Gary.
what they're called, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I knew that, but I didn't want to say because I figured someone else would get into it. So
Gary's got one. It's made entirely of
Solar panels.
solar panels.
Yeah.
So
He's got one over his solar panels to make him work better in Wales.
Yeah. Let's give Tom a
You
bit
be
of
one.
background on this. So Gary lives somewhere in Wales. It's very Welsh, and
North Wales.
It's very Welsh.
well, there's,
North Wales.
there's really Welsh parts of Wales, and there's really English parts of Wales, and he's in a Welsh bit. And essentially, he constantly regales us with his stories about his solar panels and how much his brew days cost him and things like that. And I think he did one once, an entire
30p.
brew day for 15 pence.
Yeah,
So
prick.
yeah,
he does love
What?
his solar panels.
It does.
he doesn't
No, the
live in the
English
English
bit.
bit, mate. He's definitely in the Welsh bit. So yeah, we've touched on the AHP. We're going to come back to him in a bit, but one thing that I do want to know, and one thing that's really quite important to me is, have you got any new varieties of hops on the horizon? Can we have some to test? And more importantly, do you have a replacement for Saz?
So Saz is something that's had a pretty shitty year the past probably 2-3 years. This year isn't looking too bad, so it's probably going to be available a little bit better. We are awaiting the alpha tests on that to come back. But the main drive, so there's 3 main hop breeding programs across the world. There's several smaller ones. There's HBC, which I touched on earlier, which is where Citra, Mosaic, Sabro, Talus, most of your main headline hops come. You've got the Huel Research Center, which is just north of Munich, which is where Huel Melon, Hellertal Blanc, Mandarina, Bavaria came from. And then you've got the HPA program down in Australia, and each one is kind of trying to do some different things. So like HBC is trying to find that next big Citra hop. They're trying to push it a little bit.
I mean, that's a big
harder.
ask. That is a big ask.
Well, yeah, but you need to remember when Citra was brought into the country in 2006, 2007, well, mid noughties.
Yeah.
We had Cascade, and Cascade had only come into the. And I always get asked this question: what's your favorite hop? Cascade all the way. I'd use absolutely through and through. But that was only brought over in '95, and then so they're trying to find that next thing. You look at the Huel Research Center, and like what I was saying earlier about how the German brewers treat their hops, is they are just looking for consistency. And the main issue that Germany's having right now is climate change. Is that you look at Mittelfrüh, their roots only go down about 4 foot, and the water table's getting to 7 foot, 10 foot. So it's just dying. And so the development of hops at Huel is now to try and make hops that are able to thrive. So you look at the 2 new hops that they produced for the past 3-4 years of Tango and Titan as well, which is a alpha hop that can have up to 29% alpha, which is
hell yes,
just kind of wave in the general direction of the kettle.
Chris, you like that? With the what do they call that? With the sprinkling the
Salt base.
Salt Bay, yeah.
So, but that's going to be commercially available. Maybe not this year, maybe next year. And then on the HBC side, you've got 1019 that's coming out, which I'm really enjoying, which is a West Coast hop that's got like blueberry, blackcurrant, like fruits of the forest notes without that massive Citra grapefruit punch that West Coast hops have been known for. You've just had HBC 586 finally get its name as Crush, which was known by the American branch. So let's not go into the naming conventions on that. But that's got beautiful flavors. And then you got HBA down in Australia who are just kind of sat there as Aussies do, just going, fuck it, let's see what happens. And just producing some of the most mad hops in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, that sounds very Aussie.
Very Aussie, yeah.
So the second part of that question was, can I have some to test?
Chris, not I.
I reckon I've got some HBC 586 somewhere.
There's no I in team, Chris.
No, but if you look closely enough, there's a me. No, I honestly believe that, you know, we're gonna see some massive differences in hop production and more importantly in just hops in general over the next 5 to 7 years. Climate change is a huge thing. And that kind of ties into a later question.
Scottish hop growing, yay!
Well, to be fair, you might not be wrong, to be fair.
Just coming back to that as far as the SARS issue, and I believe it is kind of affecting noble hops in general. What's actually going wrong with the harvest that causes the alpha acids to drop so dramatically?
Well, it's not even just the alpha acid, it's just withering on the vine.
Right, okay. So it's just dying off early, basically, or not yet?
It's a combination of drought, powdery mildew, mites. Hops, especially in Germany and surrounding countries, are incredibly regulated of how you can treat it. Yep. So you might have noticed difference in Slovenian hops the past couple of years. So back when I was first starting to brew, Slovenian hops we used because they were cheap and they did the job-ish. And now you're trying like Solea, and it's fucking banging. it's really good, but that's because they irrigate and they can treat things in a different way to what Germany and Czech, and there's a little bit of hop growing in Australia and Poland as well. So the quality of hops coming out of Slovenia is absolutely fantastic right now. Whereas if you look at what's happening with SARS and with certain varieties in Germany, is because they can't irrigate, they can't do certain things. They are just dying on the vine. But that's why it's very important for us to be able to move on to these newer varieties. It's great to have tradition, but if it's hurting the farmers and hurting the brewers,
they're not getting anything.
we need to move. We need to move forward with this.
Yeah, evolution's very important. You may have noticed on the sort of right hand side of you, Tom, there's a whole list of questions coming down in the comments section. We've just had a good question from Ron Muir, who is very, very Scottish, and he says, "Let's get down to the details, boys. For a dry hop Citra Pale, how much would you use of Citra Spectrum on a standard homebrew batch?"
How much is a standard homebrew batch? Like,
well,
I
this
know,
is Ron.
I've got mates.
120 litres.
Yeah, I've got mates who they say that it's a homebrew and it's got a 5 hectare brew house in their garden. It's not like.
Let's work on 23 litres.
Yeah, let's say
if you're going for a nice smash Citra and you're using 100 gram of pellets, about 20 grams of Spectrum is where I'd start out.
Yeah, the pack. Just the tiny. Yeah, the one the malt miller does is good.
Well, the packs the malt miller do 16 grams.
I wouldn't do
20 grams from
16 for Incognito and 20 for Spectrum.
20 for Spectrum.
I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
don't do 2 like Chris.
Yeah,
read the instructions.
Yeah, 40 grams might.
You need to leave it. Yeah, you need to leave it for about 6 months. Was it, Chris?
That
6.5. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the advantages and also disadvantages of Spectrum, because there's so much less vegetative matter in there. It's so much more stable. So it means that if you're getting hop burn because you've over hopped it, you're going to need to leave it a while there, boys. You're going to need to leave it a while. But it also means that if you make a half decent NEPA and you keep it with a low DO, year and a half later, still going to taste pretty damn fresh.
Jeez.
So it's a double-edged sword on that.
So, bearing in mind those
9 months to calm down.
Well, then in 9 years it's going to be even better.
So, bearing in mind those packets are 20 grams that you get from the malt miller anyway. Is it possible to sort of use a little bit of it and save some if you tape it up, or is that going to
So
oxidize?
The only issue that you'll have is, of course, oxidization.
Yeah.
But because they're built like they are, if you squeeze it out and stick a little clip over it, I would still try and use it within a week or two.
Right.
But it's not going to be. It's not going to be the end of the world.
I just wouldn't.
Just use a fucking lot. Stop.
I mean, I've never not thrown it in anyway, but some people might want to use it for a style that's not quite that heavily hopped, and then perhaps
you just make up the rest with other. You use T90 or whatever, don't you? So you'd use one pack of each if you were doing Incognito Spectrum, and then you would just back it up with T90, I think.
If you are looking for the efficiency, like, you need to add Incognito into the whirlpool with even like a single leaf of leaf hops. Just add its nucleation point so it's got something to bind to, because otherwise it'll just bind to the outside of your whirlpool and you fucked it. Like, you just wasted a load of stuff. So even like a single hop.
The malt miller did a video and it was called, was it hot dipping? And what they did was they did the whirlpool in the fermenter. So you transferred, for us it was like 4 litres.
Hot dip, yeah.
Yeah, and you basically transferred 4 litres into your fermenter hot. And then basically by the time it gets in and all that, it's sitting around about 80. You put in your Incognito, and then what you do is you then chill the rest of the wort. And then by then it's like 10, 15, 20 minutes later, and then you transfer on top of it. So it's done its sort of transformation in the fermenter, and then everything's in the fermenter as well. So
quite a lot of commercial brewers have started doing that. It was really kind of, I think the first guys I came across who were doing it commercially were Thornbridge in Green Mountain, which uses Spectrum Galaxy. And so they were adding the Galaxy straight in while pouring hot wort onto it. It's like,
Spectrum.
why are you doing that? And Dom just went, didn't really want to climb up the ladder, mate, and it's made the beer taste better. And it's like, amazing. And so I've just used that for a load of guys. And so quite a lot of the guys who I work with dip hop all of their Spectrum.
At the start.
Just add it right at the beginning. You need to remember, you don't have really that vegetative matter to worry about getting that grassy, horrible vegetative taste to it. And with Spectrum, because you've just got all those precursors just right there, if you're using the right yeast with it, so something like WHC saturated, you're going to get an insane biotransformation, mainly with the fruitier Australian stuff. So I wouldn't recommend it with like some older school West Coast hops. But you are going to get these big. The earlier you add Spectrum, the more juicy the flavors.
Owen's stroking his chin like, I'm formulating.
You just started to segue onto my question, Tom, which is like, there's some advice, I think, it might be on your website, or I'm not sure where I read it, which was that the earlier you add it, the fruitier notes you tend to get, and if you add it later, like after fermentation, you tend to get a different flavour profile.
You tend to get, and I hate...
explain the science behind that?
Well, the science varies from hop to hop and also from yeast to yeast, so I'm not going to be able to do that in total. But as a rule of thumb, if you've got a juicier, more tropical forward hop, so if you've got Enigma, which I think is one of the most underrated hops on the market, you add that right in on, not even on day one fermentation, we're talking straight off cast off. By the time that you get to kegging, you're going to get all those papaya, all those huge flavors going. Whereas if you're going for like a Cascade or a Centennial into dry hop, well, you don't really want their fruity flavors, because what's that bitter orange and hardcore grapefruit? You want those. And I hate using this word, but it describes it perfectly. Hoppier flavors. But you guys know what I mean. So you add that close to the end, probably 3 days into conditioning is probably going to be your best place to add that. And it depends on what you're going at. None of these rules are hard and fast. And the great thing about you guys as homebrewers is you seem to take any advice I give you and just fuck it and see what happens. And sometimes we get absolutely amazing results.
Interesting. No,
I mean, the bottom line is, the only way that you're going to find out is if you try it, right?
Yes, and it's much easier for you guys to try it on a 20-litre scale than it is
just...
for some guys to try it on a 20-hex scale.
Exactly. So why not?
Which is also one of the reasons that we try and support the homebrew scene as much as that what we do, is because we get the feedback from you guys, and it's like, oh, that sounds quite good.
Oh, here we go.
Oh yeah, that's literally
just
there we
to
go.
throw
That's
that up there
what...
for you for reference. Yeah.
You can even add it earlier than if you are adding it at the same time as your yeast, you're going to get even more. But it does depend on the yeast you're using, and it does depend on the hops.
So if you want a West Coast, you want to go late. If you want it to be, hazy boy,
juicy, add it a bit. Well, if you want it like to make a 4.5% session, add it straight into secondary, and you're going to have a great time.
Well, again, coming back to combining it with hop pellets as well, you can sort of add the, effectively kind of double dry hop with it, can't you? And have the Spectrum in early and then some 90s later on.
Absolutely.
And do whatever you want with it.
Yes. So. Such a good shout.
So from what I'm reading there... No, Tricky, put that back up.
That back up. Sorry.
Come on. Jesus Christ.
Get it back up.
As a teacher.
Tricky, come on.
It's a struggle. It's a struggle.
Chris is going to
your missus tells me that all the time. So...
Especially after doing a podcast.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, what I'm seeing there is, if I was to drop, let's say, for example, I just happen to have in my fridge some Spectrum Galaxy and some Spectrum Mosaic.
Yeah.
If I was to drop both packs in at the point of pitching...
60-litre batch, yes.
No, 23. Stop being a pussy.
Stop
so if I was going to go in at the start of main fermentation, pitch with the yeast, would I get... Because the Spectrum dose rate is much higher at yeast pitch, and the fruity notes are much higher at yeast pitch, would that mean I would get more of a fruity flavour and less of those green resinous notes?
Yes, but you are dancing with the devil there. Like
Yeah.
He's my main dance partner. I've got to be honest with you.
you are absolutely, especially from the Galaxy, you are going to get much more of those pineapple-y mango flavors
Okay.
going on, but you are still in danger of getting quite a lot of hot burn if you're adding essentially 200 to 300 grams of T90s into a 20-litre batch.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each to their own. Each to their own.
Okay, so you would recommend if you were doing a 23-litre batch to just put one pack in?
Yes, Chris.
Yeah.
Have
Choose
you not
your
learnt this
poison and go
lesson
from
yet?
there.
Yeah,
No,
we've-
I haven't.
We've
I'm
been
not
over
good at
this
learning
ground
lessons.
before, Chris, remember?
Chris, you taught us this not to
I'm
do
not-
it.
I'm not- yeah,
but
but-
in Chris's defence,
It was at the end.
he added it after fermentation.
And that's why he had that resinous. He did have that proper.
That's why the Bipper tasted like
resinous.
shit for 5 months.
It was like creosote. It was literally
Oh,
Well,
so
Chris-
you were getting that
No, they-
proper.
They all tried it.
proper resinous. Yeah.
They all tried it, Tom. I
Yep.
sent them all a bottle. It cost me money for them to tell me it was shit.
I
They
mean,
all looked
just
so
as a
happy about it.
kind of a working example of that, I did the Even Sharks Need Water clone recipe and basically just subbed out some of the Galaxy in the dry hop with Spectrum, and it worked really, really well, but made up the rest with 200 grams of T90 Citra rather than putting more Spectrum on top of the Spectrum, and
Yeah.
that worked really well.
Did I have that when I was doing it? Yours, Tricky? I'm sure I did. I think I did.
Yes,
I think I did.
I'm going to say yes, although
Yeah.
I've got no recollection of it whatsoever.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure I did actually. It was
No, I think that
dynamite.
was about that time.
Yeah.
Cool. So, yeah, we've seen enough of that diagram now, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
There you go, sorted.
Good.
I do think that is quite interesting. And would that be just sort of it's being acted on by yeast, or is that more of a just it gives it time to kind of release its flavors and do its thing?
There's an element of the yeast kind of churning it up and mixing it in, maybe as well, or
Do you know what? I haven't actually thought about it. It tends to work very well with a very aggressive yeast. So it might be, I think it probably is in it churning up and getting contact time there. I mean, one of my favorite yeasts, and I keep shouting about WHC, but WHC saturated
Yeah.
is just god tier, like absolute god tier yeast. Like I've got mates who are making commercial bitters with it, and then 12% dippers with it. And I don't think there's been a yeast in the past 10 years that you've been able to do the entire spectrum and do it so well. And if you treat it right, it flocculates beautifully. And if you treat it right, you can make a beautiful hazy beer out of it. And that is the yeast that I kind of recommend to everyone of if you are just going to have a one yeast, it would be saturated, in my opinion.
I mean, that's
Good
a
old
great
London
choice.
Ale 3.
Yeah.
They're great. Well, previous kind of using saturated, I was just an 04, 05 man. Like that's just there's nothing wrong with it. It works. Why bother trying to change something that doesn't need it? But like using saturated more and more, and being able to treat it in the right ways, using a little bit of nutrients here and there, it's just an absolute utility yeast.
I mean, I just bear with me. I'm going to go on a minor tangent here. I made good use of the Black Friday sale at, unsurprisingly, I'll sponsor the Malt Miller on WHC yeast, and I think I ordered, and I didn't even order every one.
Popping pills.
I ended up with, I think
It's all gone now, I think.
13 different yeasts,
Did you?
all dried. And I thought, and I got them all out, and I was like, wow, like things have moved on in the last 5 years
Yeah.
when it comes to dry yeast.
So it's one of those that when I
Mental.
first started out brewing, and if you weren't using wet yeast, well, it was pointless. Like you were using pretty shitty dried yeast. And now I'd say
Yeah, so
the
far.
opposite. The technology now with dried yeast and also the breeding program around yeast and things, I struggle to understand why you'd be using wet yeast over dry yeast anymore.
Yeah.
There are certain places that do very well, and if you're recropping and you're using a house strain, that's a different matter. But if you are just trying to get those flavors and consistently, why aren't you using dry yeast? You don't even need to make it a starter anymore. You can just dump it in and it's quite happy. And when you've got like the, what do we call it, thermotolerant strains coming out of WHC,
6 hours.
Lakes are doing their stout in 36 hours to 9%.
Yeah.
With no off flavors. It's absolutely insane.
What's his name from the brewery in Mansfield? Can't remember his name. He posted a picture of one of his beers fermenting with Voss.
Oh, it wasn't. It was
literally boiling.
Ian over at Donny Brewery when it was boiling over the top of it.
No, what's his name? The dude who's got that brewery. What's his face? The Shy PA Bacon Gesture Man.
Oh,
Chris.
Harry Brewery.
Harry. And he literally posted a picture. He posted a video of his fermenter, and he was fermenting with some sort of white strain.
It was Voss.
And it was boiling.
Yeah.
It was actually boiling. There was
that was
that
a good few years ago now.
Yeah.
It looked like it was boiling,
When Kvike first kind of came onto the scene in 2019, 2018, there was a brewery in Hull called Bone Machine. I don't know if you guys ever drank them. The beers were fantastic. Like Kimmy and Marco, two brewers. Kimmy's now over at Brew York doing some great stuff. But they used a high house Kvike strain that was insane. And so I asked them, it's like, oh, can you send us some over? Because we want some over in Manchester. And Kimmy got a baking tray, put the yeast on it, put in the oven, dried it out, and sent me an envelope. And I went, what the fuck am I meant to do with this? And he went, just put in your beer. And it's like, okay. And we put in. An hour and a half later, it was blowing off everything.
Remember the days of the toenail clippings going back and forth in the post for the homebrew equivalent of that as well.
I've got a bag of Evergarden toenail clippings in the fridge.
I've got some of your Evergarden toenail clippings.
It was insane.
Crazy shit.
The only thing is we found is that a lot of breweries are moving away from Kvike because I think it dries it out quite a lot.
So a lot of breweries will be saying they're moving away from Kvike and they'll be using
thermotolerant.
They'll be using isolate strains is what they'll be using. So Pomona, Lustra, all Kvike derivatives.
Yeah.
But under a different name.
Lutra's fucking legit.
WHC have kind of implied that part of the marketing for those yeasts is try and get away from Kvike in the branding because it's got some negative connotations, but people still want
and the dryness. I really like Kvike in an IPA. I'm a volume drinker rather than a quality drinker, and so therefore a Kvike works very well for us.
Chris, you're a big fan.
I love Kvike. I love Voss. Big fan of Hornidal. Love some Lutra. Tricky hates it because I call them lagers and he has a pop at me.
that's the main reason I don't like it.
You've got a brewery in Sheffield that I work very closely with, and I won't say what name it is because he'll hate it. But he turns his lager around in 3 days.
Jeez.
And the worst part of it is that beer is 95% of an incredible lager. But he just sells it into the pubs he does when they just want a cold, fizzy beer.
Yeah.
Why
cold,
dick about?
Yellow fizzy lager, yeah.
Why dick about for 3 months when all they want is, what have you got that's like Carling?
Yep.
Yeah.
Tom, practice your poker face. Would that be smod?
That's not smod. Like, have you met the guys from Smod? Everything is done to the absolute utmost quality and gorgeousness.
Swing and a miss, Chris.
Smod stuff is absolutely outstanding. I've never had a single bad beer from Smod. Sorry, St. Mars of the Desert, for those of you who are going to go out and order the beers, which I recommend you do.
If you haven't drank Smod, like, where the fuck have you been for the past 10 years? Like,
their beers are amazing. Absolutely
they're not
amazing.
Widely available, to be fair, though, so it's not...
you get it from their website.
Well, that's not widely available.
You can get that from the tap room in the worst part of Sheffield that you've ever been into.
Hillsborough.
No, it's in Attercliffe, isn't it? It's like downtown Beirut. Like,
Police dogs walk around in threes. Yeah, I've been there, mate.
oh,
They're amazing. I absolutely. Oh, I've realised I've done an hour of this podcast and I haven't actually turned my "I'm gorgeous" light on. Sorry about that.
Absolute
So yeah,
joker.
the whole sort of the whole
Fucking
Voss
amateur.
thing. I know. What I've got my fucking blue shit on. What more do you want? Hang on a sec. Ian says it's
The
posh
beauty
in
dash.
Sheffield. Beauty dash.
Beauty dash.
So right, let's move on a little bit from what we've been talking about because there's a few questions that we have, and I know that Tom is going to go absolutely skits when I say this one. Right, Brett, who's our mate Brett Harmon, who makes some absolutely banging beers, but he looks like a bollard because he's short and bald. He said that you mentioned that you told him that storing hops is in the freezer is bad for their oils, or something like that. He qualifies it with. So the question on that: what research is it based on? And it goes against pretty much all advice provided elsewhere.
Bearing in mind this was a conversation at Love and Beer, so there may be some issues with
it wasn't. It was
translation.
actually it was at the previous talk I did.
Oh, was it?
where
Okay, sorry.
It was where we were all,
but
and
equally
I
shit
said,
faced.
like, storing hops in the freezer and thinking they're going to be as fresh as when they go in is stupid. And like, it's not an indefinite thing. And if you take leaf hops are a best example. If you take leaf hops and you vac seal them, stick them in the freezer, I mean, you take them out and you can put your hand inside and feel where all the oils have flown off into the bag itself. Like, treating, if the way that you should be buying hops is direct from the producer and spending a little bit more to get them as fresh as possible. Like, buying them and freezing them and expecting them to be as good as when you got them. Like, they're vegetative products. If you freeze a lettuce, it's not going to be as good at the other side of things.
I don't eat
3
lettuce.
years.
Well, it's kind
3
of
years later.
It's kind of the same as like if you bought a load of steak. Like if you just cook it fresh, or you put it in the freezer and you eat it 3 months later, or 12 months later,
Absolutely,
or 5 years later,
it's still going
it's
to
gonna
be, still
be-
going to be good. The issue that you have with storing hops and freeze for a long time is it does encourage the oils to flow out a little bit more due to the different freezing points between the vegetative matter and to the hop oils. But
that
the main
would be
thing
more
that
of a problem for leaf hops versus pellets, though.
Massively.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is
Massively.
put your bag in as well to make sure the oil's going. Is that what you're saying?
And then just like
Bag.
run your finger around it and see what it's like.
Yeah.
I've always been a proponent of rinsing out my hot bags with wort. I knew there was a reason.
Absolutely. But it's just buy the hops you need and brew with them. When you're on a
I've got
small
9
scale,
kilos in the freezer, Tom.
Dead,
This is not
dead.
filling me with joy.
Yeah. Sorry there, boys. But if you look
Yeah.
at like if
For
you look
homebrewers.
at leaf on a commercial level, that'll stay fresh probably perfect conditions, which are 10 to 3 degrees. It'll stay fresh for about a year, 2 years. T90, 2 to 3 years. BBC probably 3.5 to 4.5. Cryogenic a little bit longer, and advanced products probably about the same. So it is about buying what you want, but also we're only really talking about the beta here and also your hop oils. So if you're just looking for like that alpha punch, use the old hops. Just boil the shit out of them and get the alpha. Like, just add some more into it. But yeah, freezing your hops and expecting them to be as fresh as possible is not the way forward. You probably need to spend a little bit more and to keep them that way, or just accept that you're just going to use them for the alpha.
So what you're saying is I need a -80 freezer.
Full cryogenic, like just flash freeze them. Nitrogen. What's
Full
it?
cryo freezer.
Liquid
Right.
nitrogen.
Liquid nitrogen.
You need to spend.
I'm sure you can find some room for that in the shed, Chris, right?
I've got one of them, no problem.
Should have got
Awesome.
one in the college. Yep.
I've got one at
Tom.
work, yeah.
I've got a question. Can you freeze spectrum in incognito, and
So
should you?
the thing it was a spectrum was because you've got nothing to bind together in a physical matter. If you freeze spectrum and incognito, it will separate into its solvent, which is hop oil, but also your alpha, which is again hop oil, but it will separate. The way you can get that, and quite a lot of guys, is just put it on top of your kettle while it boils, and it'll just work its way back into each other. The main thing we want to avoid in all hop storage is oxygen ingress. That is the thing that is going to kill your hops more than heat, more than anything, is going to be the oxygen ingress, which is why I say about Malt Miller and the way that they process repackaged hops is second to none, because their kit is equal to the way that the commercial hop packagers do it.
They've
So
put
here's
some
a question.
investment into that then.
Here's a
It's
question, right?
insane. I'm sure if you ever have the time to go down to
Nitrogen
Swindon,
flushed. Yeah, it's nitrogen flushed, isn't it?
it's
Very expensive
incredible
kit,
their
right?
setup. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So, the question here, Tom, right, is would you advocate homebrewers using vac sealers on their packs of hops over putting them in the freezer?
I'm going to say something. I hoped that you all were already doing that.
Yeah, vac sealing.
Vac sealing and then freezing.
Yeah,
Again,
so
it's about the
do
oxygen
that
in
with
there.
everything.
Yeah. This is more about like not expecting hops to stay fresh indefinitely, because they won't. So if you're vac sealing it and put it in the fridge or into the freezer, it's going to stay fresh, like what I said, for a while. But if you pick up your 2016 Fuggles that's been in the back of your freezer drawer for 4 years and go,
2015
This is go-
Cascade.
this is going to make a great dry hop right now. It's probably not going
I
to
think
be
there's
the
an
most
element of
ideal.
like trusting your sensory, perception of stuff like that as well. If you open the packet and you know it's a few years old and you just get nothing on the nose,
It does
maybe
also depend
that's
on what
not,
you're looking for.
Yeah,
Like what I
well,
keep saying,
yeah, maybe
the
use it
difference
for
between the
bittering, but
aroma.
not put it.
I
Like,
don't know.
yeah.
It's probably good for the mixed firm, is it not?
Well, yeah, the mixed firm lads fucking love it. Absolutely love it. So I'm really good mates with the guys at Balance. I drink there quite a lot, and we've done quite a lot of work together on that side of things. And I'm there going, that's a 2013 Williamette. Like, why'd you have it there? It's like, oh, it works, doesn't
Cheesy.
it?
Cheesy.
It's
Max
like,
cheese.
but they don't need it, do they? All they need is that little bit of the antibacterial properties, and so
Correct.
it makes sense for them to not actually get any flavour from the hops, and that's
Yeah.
all they need.
Yep. And the alpha's dropped so low. Yeah.
To be
Okay.
fair, my Pomona beer, I used some unvac sealed 4-year-old Moto Ecker that's been in the freezer.
There you go.
That might explain why it's tasting a little bit different.
Is it tasting cheesy?
A little
No, it's
bit
not cheesy.
different.
Definitely
a little
not
bit
cheesy.
different. Okay,
You be the
gentlemen,
judges next Saturday.
we
Yay.
can. I'm looking forward to your cheesy beer, Owen. We have this live podcast, as you know, and there's people on YouTube who are sending us questions and stuff. We also have this thing that we do, which is a commercial break, whereby we stop and everybody gets a commercial beer, and then we drink it and we rate it. Okay? If you don't have a commercial beer, Tom, we've got problems, but we'll give you time to go and get one out your fridge. It's all good. It's fine.
I've got something even better than a commercial beer in the fridge downstairs. So
Okay, well, that's good, because I've got something rather incredible, and you saw the list because I emailed it to you. One thing that I will say is we've got a question from Nathan, Mr. Edwards, who says, are there any historical hops not used today that potentially have a future due to climate change?
the sad thing is, it's the opposite way around. Is that many hops are staring down the viability scope because of how they have to grow. Whether that they're, they can be taken over by powdery mildew or by mites or the full climate change sort of thing. There's been
They're just
very
not
few
rooting
that have been
deep
able
enough.
to. That's mainly with the German varieties, but yeah. Whereas they might have a future as a mother to other ones that come after them. But there's quite a lot of hops that will die out, and like what I was saying earlier, probably should die out so we can move on and stop. I don't want to say stop wasting our time, but stop wasting the effort and things, and find other ways to take those flavors and use them. I sometimes come across as a guy who hates tradition and the heritage of things, but I've seen the pain that the farmers are going through. And you look at so I was over in the Hellertal last year on a farm with a guy called Stefan Stangelmeyer. And I was talking to him, it's like, how long have you been farming it? And he went, oh, about 27. And I thought it was 27 years. No, 27 generations. There'd been a Stangelmeyer on that farm
Holy
since
fuck.
the 1200s, and that's only how far he could trace it back. And he was going, it's getting harder and harder because people are still demanding these hops that he can't fucking grow anymore. But he still has to because they've contracted it 10 years in advance.
That's
need-
horrible, isn't it?
I mean, he's a massive German. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Like, he kept correcting my English grammar, as all Germans do. But he was a great guy, and talking about like how the market is changing things. He needs people to move on to these newer varieties. And by newer varieties, I'm talking about like Mandarina Bavaria and Hallertau Blanc. I'm not talking about like things that haven't even been created yet.
New varieties.
Not
right?
new. We're talking about varieties that were created in
Halter-
2005, 2010. Hallertau Blanc, an
yeah.
amazing Mandarina
Oh,
Bavaria
wow.
and a wheat beer. I think there's nothing
Tough
better.
gig trying to push those new varieties on German brewers, though, I imagine.
But,
right? It's,
but then if you actually look at the recipe that Augustina Helles, which we can all agree is the finest lager ever made, the way they brew it, we would look at it and be disgusted because it's CO2 alpha extract, it's it's malt extract, because every single bottle needs to be the same.
Is the same, yeah.
And that's the entire German brewing method. And that's the issue with kind of pushing these hops forward, is because they need it to be the same as what it was 30 years ago. And
Wow.
it is hard to talk to the farmers and seeing them struggle in the same way.
That's mad.
I've got to say, I
Yeah.
do feel sorry for him. I do feel sorry for him because it is, you know, the history of German beer and the way in which they're produced and the flavors that you get. They are worldwide. They're all over the place, and that
It's incredible what they can take the four fundamental ingredients and be able to twist them and change them, and it's just exquisite is the way that I always put it. It's like it's the nuances that we don't really have. But then again, I think that we shit on English brewing and British brewing tradition quite hard compared to where we're held in the rest of the world. That you like, I was drinking with Basil, who is one of the guys who owns Finback, a while ago, and he's going, I'd come over to England to drink cask beer.
Yeah.
Like, because we don't
A
have,
lot of
and
them
it's
do,
incredible. And it's like, and we're there going,
We're the only ones, that really has cask.
You've had Ruddles, you've had Doombar, and they're going, yeah, but even they're different. It's special. And I really wish that we could celebrate our brewing heritage in the same way as like the French celebrate their wine, or even the Germans celebrate their beer heritage. Yeah. If you look at in the House of Commons at their bar, they've got English sparkling wine and Scotch whiskey, and I love Scotch whiskey, but fucking English sparkling wine. Why isn't there like beer that we are celebrated across the world and held as the cradle of modern brewing tradition? That should be something that we celebrate a lot more.
I'm sure Nigel Farage has got a handful on the.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
Let's leave that one well alone. So next question before we break out the commercials, boys. Teddy G, for those of us who already have a ton of hops in the freezer, is there a rough time scale of degradation? Because basically, from what you've already said, I've got 4 kilos. I need to.
This is definitely
tomorrow.
a how long is a piece of string question.
If you've had hops in your freezer for more than 2-3 years, I think you probably need to reassess what you're doing there. But if you've got leaf hops for more than probably 18 months, 2 years, you probably need to be thinking about using them up.
So we all need to reconsider our life choices, is what you're saying, Tom.
like I was saying, buy smaller package. Pay that extra couple of quid. You're just going to be able to get a much better.
Yeah, but the
product.
savings for bulk buying, Tom.
But I like a kilo. I like a kilo.
And I know it feels great, but you're just going to get much better
Half the
hops.
price.
There's not. I want to reiterate. There's not anything wrong with those hops. They're just not going to be as good. So
Well,
you're just not going to be able to get.
No, use
Back to
20%
Chris's
extra.
point. Chris's point earlier was about trying to make the best beer we possibly can.
Yeah,
And I think bulk buying hops probably isn't really in vain with that value.
I know it isn't, because I have binned quite a few bags of hops that I bought in bulk, and you're just throwing half of it away in the end because you don't get through it quickly enough, and that's the false economy, I think, really, of it when it comes down to it. For me, if you're doing stuff like Citra and Mosaic, where you know you're going to get through that because you're using it in everything,
Then
then
it's
fair enough.
going to be absolutely
Fair
fine.
enough. But
I'd buy a kilo.
5 kilos though.
I'd
Yeah.
buy a kilo of Citra, and that's probably about the only hop I'd buy in a kilo.
What about
I'd
5?
probably
or 5 if it's on eBay for cheap. Yeah.
use within 9 months. You're going to be absolutely fine there, mate. Like absolutely no worries. It's just if you've got that weird pack of like Magnum in the back of the fridge that's been there for like 5 years, probably time.
It is an interesting question, Tom. Like, what about if I bought a pack of nitrogen flushed?
Is this
hops?
completely hypothetical here, Owen? I'm assuming
Yeah,
completely
totally
hypothetical.
Tom, I've got a friend that bought some nitrogen flushed hops from a reputable supplier at the moment. How long do you reckon would they be fine in the freezer for much longer?
You're just slowing down the oxygen ingress. Your nitrogen flushed, it's going to be a lot better than even simply CO2 flushing, just because of the quality of gas that goes in. All that you're trying to do is stop that oxidization process happening, and so it depends on what type in. It's not the end of the world if they're 3-4 years old, but you're just not going to be able to get that same oomph. And I hope that none of us really expect to be able to get that oomph out of a 3-4 year old hop compared to a 3-month-old hop. So it's not going to make your beer go bad or anything like that. It's just the fact that you can't keep these things indefinitely.
I'm with you.
Or just start doing wild firm beers. That's your other option.
Yes, get the oak ferment, get the barrel out.
Absolutely.
Guys, I've only had chicken wings for my tea. I'm already feeling these beers, and based on what I'm drinking next, I'm ordering a pizza. So somebody else do the next bit.
Well, listen, is it time to bust out a commercial break?
I think it is.
I need to run downstairs and get mine. I will see you guys
All right.
in a second.
Cool.
I mean, I started a commercial about half an hour to 40 minutes ago.
Oh, and someone mentioned it, and I thought, I jumped in.
Yeah, I'm already into mine. So who's got the least left and wants to go first?
I've got about.
I've
I've got about half a pint left.
Go on, Owen.
3/4.
Well, should we wait for Tom?
Yeah.
Okay, let's sit in silence.
Let's just have a moment of silence. Or let's just have a moment of reflection and meditation.
Should we talk about what we got up to today?
Maybe. I've walked 24.2 thousand steps today.
Blimey.
22,000 steps.
Clocking them up.
24,000 steps.
What the fuck are you doing today?
Round of golf, mate. That'll do it.
That's nuts.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, this is why golf carts were invented.
This is why golf sucks.
That's why golf's good for you.
Coming from the
Golf's good.
Scotsman. Yeah.
Golf is good. I actually just took my golf clubs out of my golf and put them in the house.
It's
today.
highly recommended by Donald Trump, and he's a
Yeah.
figure of
Wow,
fitness
he's
and health.
86
isn't
and
he?
I cannot believe I've just cracked
leader
this
of the
beer.
free world.
Golf is good. Hey, I've never really got into it. My dad was on. I think my dad played off like, was it 5 or 6 sort of handicap? So he was
Good
like
golfer.
good golfer. And his
Oh.
dad as well was very good. And yeah,
And you've failed the generations.
I totally failed. Totally.
My handicap is my swing.
I'm like triple digits on a round of golfs type thing, you know, which is so
Yeah.
good. But yeah,
I
no,
mean-
golf is something I would have definitely loved. I do have
Fucking hell.
you testing your
Absolutely,
commercial.
I had a horrendous night's sleep as well before last night.
Holy
Daughter's not
shit.
particularly well. She was up at 2:30 and had an awful night's sleep, and then tried playing around the golf today.
Go on.
Didn't work out all that well.
At least you got your steps on.
Yeah, I got the steps in there. Got the steps in.
Oh my good lord.
Welcome back,
Could I go
Tom.
first? Please
I
let
think
me
Chris,
go first.
Chris is having a sort of
Chris-
beer-induced orgasm.
What did
Holy
Chris?
shit.
Chris, did you hit the MPs?
I might have done.
Uh-oh.
No way.
Oh my god. I've been dying to try this beer since I got it. Okay, I bought 2 bottles. One's for me, one's for a friend.
Yeah, I know what you're
All
talking about now. Okay.
And oh
Omni.
my good lord. This is one hell of a beer. Right, Tricky's not here. Tom, you go first. Talk about your beer. I'm going to savour mine for a few moments longer.
What, so this is a commercial break.
Hang on. I can just say, just for Tricky to be able to play the music. Hey, Tricky, let's take it to the commercial break. Now you can go, Tom.
So this is, we all have pleasures in this life. I've been working in craft beer and its surrounding thing for more than half my life now. And there's one beer that's been with us the entire way through. It's sweet. It's got a little bit of corn to it. It's fizzy. I think it is one of the finest beers ever made. But this goes to, I think, the place that you drink this beer in. I can remember once sat in a pub in York called the Charles XIII when I was at uni, and I was surrounded by 5 or 6 of my best mates. I was sat there, the sun's hitting the back of my head, and I had a sip of this beer and went, that is the finest beer I've ever had. And that beer is, of course, Foster's. I'm going to very much enjoy this ice cold can as a little bit of a break between the nice beers.
I thought you were going to say Carling, but
I'm not.
Calm.
I just came in and thought for a second he had a can of Foster's in his hand. I was like,
He
what the
does.
he has got a
fuck?
can of Foster's.
It is Foster's.
The first time Foster's has appeared on the commercial
Jesus.
break. We've had Bishop's Finger.
Get it?
Oh, Foster's. So me and my mates, a Fozzie Bear is a Foster's top. Oh, that is heaven. Ice cold Foster's, squirt of lemonade. Oh, that's what you want. That.
Like a shandy.
How
Like a
Absolutely.
top. Like a
How do you
top.
feel
Like a
about a
top.
little
I don't
bit of
care.
lime
It tastes
cordial?
incredible. We just call it a cocktail where I'm from, but
Shall we get onto the commercial?
Oh my
Entirely satirical,
fucking
or whether
God.
you're like
Check 'em
genuinely
off.
going to drink a can of Foster's on the commercial.
Jesus
I want to see you drink it
fucking
now.
Christ. I want to see.
Come
yeah,
on.
I can't
Shot
believe
gun.
you're
Yeah,
Cut the
saying that.
podcast. We're done.
shotgun it, Tom.
It's time to drink the Foster's.
How dare you?
Shotgun, yeah.
How
Bosh,
dare
Go
you?
down.
There's no hops in it.
Oh, are you going to put it in a glass?
He
Wait,
is as
see?
well. Oh my good lord!
See, this is the thing, right? Wait to see if you actually had a Foster's now, you'd be like, oh, that's actually quite nice.
Nah.
We all took a blind,
Nah.
a blind-
Look at the head! It's like a Budvar head.
Oh,
Went for the
some wet
hardcore.
foam.
Oh my
it's
good lord!
DMS. kayak.
Oh,
It's
fuck.
overly sweet. It's low carb.
Oh,
Great.
no.
Everything you want from a crisp, refreshing lager.
Fuck my
DMS.
life.
Oh, the nostalgia. Of
EMS. Oh, no.
Oh, dude. Here we go. Check Paul Foster's.
Absolutely. It's the way the Australians would like it.
I don't know. We'll ask our Australian mate when he listens to the podcast.
You should have popped
Cabbage
it in
farms.
a schooner, mate.
Oh,
Schooner.
It's all
In a
big up
schooner,
in
mate.
Tadcaster now, isn't it?
Tadcaster.
Yeah, it's made in Tad.
Yeah.
You
Which
can't-
most of the time is flooded anyway.
It's not even an Australian beer, is it?
No.
Can't buy it in
You
Oz.
have to get quadruple
I
X.
found it in Oz.
A couple of the guys I used to work with at Brew York have now gone over to work for Heineken in Tadcaster, and I had the pleasure of, in a Volvic bottle presented to me in the Bluebell pub, of having undiluted Newcastle Brown when it was like 9%, and it was
Oh
like
my
the same
God.
thickness as like Nutella.
It's high gravity brewed.
It's a high gravity brewed, and mate, it shits on any barley wine I've ever had. And it was like, this is incredible. It's like, why don't we just do a limited edition, like 50-year
that.
anniversary or whatever it is? And they're going, oh, I don't want to pay the duty. And it's like, this is
This is
amazing.
actually decent. Oh,
Love
dear.
that shit.
Oh my god. On that note, can somebody please do a craft beer?
Right, I'm gonna bust in because I opened this a little while ago, and I've been savouring it. This is blowing my mind. I've got Fort Point by Trillium, which has made its way over the Atlantic. For
Is it?
those that don't know, Trillium, that's a fairly famous American brewery based in
Yeah.
Massachusetts, and this is a double dry hop pale ale called Fort Point, and it's 6.6%. It's, I believe, bittered with Columbus, and then it's just Citra. But the amount of flavour and the variety and depth of aroma and flavour in this beer is bonkers. It's like
Trillium
you're getting-
beers are
you're getting
amazing.
peach, and you're getting like this, like almost rose note, and this tropical fruit, and a little bit of fresh pine needle. It's absolutely gorgeous, and the presence of hop in it is like mental. It is like, I would argue, a step above like what any brewery in the UK is capable of making.
Serious.
Yeah, it's just the freshness that, I don't know, you just don't quite, and the clarity of like fruit notes that come through it. And I may be doing a disservice to UK craft breweries here, probably am, but it's blowing my mind right now.
I had the
It's
same
amazing.
thing with that can that Rob sent me, that one from, was it Pour Over? I had one of their cans, and it was absolutely mind-blowingly good. So I know what you're talking about, Owen. I know what you're
I don't
talking
know if
about.
it's just a case that they have like access to Citra, and it
Yeah,
has
Tom.
to travel less distance.
I mean, I'm
to
staying-
get to them.
Staying
Yeah,
quiet
they-
on this, because if you talked to me 6 years ago, I would have probably agreed with you. But the access now globally, but and also like saying how much the US is ahead of the UK. I think if you try something from, the greats, Track, or some of the smaller breweries at the moment, Baron or State of Kind up in Wigan, who, if you haven't tried,
Yeah, we've
fucking
had
hell,
Jack.
they're
Yeah.
incredible. I think the gap is narrowing more and more, but what
I
is
would
still
agree.
missing it is the experience. I've opened up another half, and I'm going to drink this other half, and it's going to be amazing. And it's the theatre, and I think that adds to beer so much more than the actual quality of the drink as well. That the Trillium's amazing, and one of the best breweries ever, along with Bizzle Brothers. My personal favorite American brewery, people always argue, is KCBC. I just think they're wonderfully under the radar, unsung heroes. But they are still got the techniques and things. They are still solidly 3-4 years ahead of us. But if you'd asked me 3-4 years ago, I'd say they're 25-30 years ahead of us in brewing techniques.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tom. Yeah, I think
It's a fuzzy bearian. That's what it is. Fuzzy bear.
Fuzzy bear. I mean, I'm just glad that I've got another can of this in the fridge because this is an absolute.
They've got that on Beer Merchants, right?
That was from the Beer Merchants.
Yeah.
Back when I was at Brew York and we were producing, I still think to this day, Brew York are doing some of the best stouts in the country. But we were drinking like the Norwegian stuff and Scandinavian stouts. And you go, what the hell? Like, how are they doing that? And I think that gap has narrowed now. And when you're looking at like the UK wild firm scene in comparison to the Belgians, the Dutch, I think that's starting to narrow, but that's probably still got the furthest to go because you've only really got one brewery now doing full lambics, which is crossover. And so it's still going to take them another 5 years minimum to be able to produce a full-blown lambic. But I said, like, we need to celebrate a lot more this scene, is what I'm saying. We need to celebrate a lot more of the British scene.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tom.
Absolutely.
You know, given the fact that you're so balls deep in this, as far as the smaller breweries that are producing incredible beers, why don't you do us a favour, and not necessarily now, but certainly after the podcast, send me an email with a list of these breweries on that people absolutely need to try, because in your, and let's face it, you're right at the cutting edge, you're at the brewery, you're talking to these guys, you're seeing the process. Send us a list of these breweries and we will happily stick it up on the website.
I mean, like,
stick it up on the Facebook so that people can experience these breweries, because quite often they go under the radar, like you say.
The couple of breweries that I will always kind of give a shout out, and I'll give three a shout out, and they're all breweries that are doing British brewing to an exceptional level, and they are Red Willow, Abbeydale, and Roosters. Like, all three
Roosters
have been known as a little bit boring, but the quality of that beer is absolutely amazing. Like, Red Willow, their Feckless is the best bitter you can get in this country, and I will put my name onto that. And Abbeydale, like, the amount that they brew to still keep the quality as high. And then Roosters, they produced Yankee, which was the first use of American hops in this country in 1995.
Chris, did you not have Roosters?
I've had Roosters a few times.
Yeah, you've
I've
had
been
it
to
on the
their,
pod.
I've been to their tap, yeah.
You've
The
talked
tap's
about
lovely, isn't it?
It's
But
great.
then if you've got like the small guys who are pushing the envelope, Blunt Rock, I always keep shouting out down in Cornwall, George and the team down there doing some amazing stuff. Or you've got like Ticking Clock just around the corner. I mean, I got to give them a shout out. The guys at Turning Point doing some amazing stuff. Big Trip over in Manchester. Don't do any packaged, it's just cask and keg. But if you see a Big Trip, it's going to be fantastic.
They have them in Leeds at Tapped in Leeds.
Yeah, they
have
sell a
some of
lot
their
into
stuff.
Piva Bar.
Yeah,
And then my
yeah,
final shout out is Colbier over in Liverpool, who are doing very new. They're doing very traditional American styles to better than anyone who's been going for 20 years is doing in the UK. Their West Coast is the best West Coast I've had in 10 years from UK.
Okay. So there we go, guys. There's some beers that you need to try. There's some breweries that you need to grab a hold of their beers. This man knows. He's right there. He's on the cutting edge. So, do you guys want to go next, Trick, Andy? Or do you want me to just go, rather than me sitting at the end and waxing lyrical about this beer for 15 minutes?
Right, well, we can be quicker than that.
I'm sure. Well, that's what your missus says. Go
Well,
on.
right, I'll go because
Go, Andy, go.
I can shoot my load pretty quick. Right, so I've went for Burning Sky Petite Form. Is it
Framboise.
Raspberry beer.
Framboise. So it's a raspberry beer. Oh my god! Right, this thing is a palate cleanser. It's
That's
like
a
you know what?
beauty, to be fair.
Yeah. Oh my word! It's like you know when you get that little bit of ginger sort of things when you've had like the Japanese
Sushi.
sort of sushi and all that, and you have a little bit of ginger. It's
Pickled
like
ginger.
pickled ginger, and it's like this palate cleanser, right? That's Petit Framboise. Is 3.5%. It's an absolute palate cleanser. It is beautiful. It's like my mouth salivating right just now because it wants more. It's like I've been trying to hold off from just absolutely downing this, but was it raspberries? It's got coriander and peppercorns in it. It's been put on second wash raspberries for a light, refreshing, and slightly tart beer. Oh my god! Right, this thing. Who Tricky? Did you say you've had this?
Yeah, I've had
I've
that
had
one.
that one, yeah.
Oh my god! Right, like
What a beer.
what a beer! Like
Yeah, it's
3.5%,
amazing.
absolute.
Especially
oh,
for such a low ABV as well.
yeah. It's just so. It's like so like
Delightful.
tart, juicy, sort of just. You're salivating, ready for the next mouthful. So yeah, if you haven't bought this Burning Sky beer, get it.
Do you know what we haven't done? We haven't rated these beers. So, Owen, what would you give yours?
I'm going to give mine a 4.3.
What?
Wow.
The best beer ever, and you're giving it a 4.3.
You've got it. There's always room for improvement, mate.
I mean,
that's
that's.
That's what
Setting
my
the
wife
bar
tells
quite
me.
high for us, though. We're going to be scoring low off the back.
I'm
of
I'm sitting.
that.
Tom, if you
So-
had to rate Foster's, what would you rate it?
Objectively,
2.5.
2.5. I think that's generous.
It's generous.
I think it's liquid
Is
and
it
it's
warm?
fizzy. Oh,
Okay.
it's room temperature. Don't you worry about that. So I think a 175, and I think that's being very generous.
Okay. Andy?
Oh, that's a 4.7. Like beast.
It's a high
like,
one, that one. It's a great
It's
beer.
absolutely great. I'm
Strong
like,
scores.
I need to get that again. 100%.
Tom, question from Ian. What if it has a dash of lemonade in it?
5 out of 5. Why is that a question? We've already been through this. Like,
Smashing it.
I refer you to my previous answer.
Yeah. Tricky, come on, do yours.
Okay, so I've been spending far too much money on Track's 10th anniversary beers recently because the FOMO got me and I'm a massive fanboy, basically. So this is actually the last one that I've tried. So this is it's not the, was it one of the last two? I think it was one of the last two, but this is another dipper out of them. Lots of them were dippers.
It
And
was about as much as you could hold off, Tricky,
Yeah.
from drinking them all.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a couple that I got more than one of, so there's still a few in the fridge. But I've tried all of them at least once, apart from this one. So
I'm picking my crate up on Tuesday, so I'm very much looking forward to it.
are you getting all of them in one go?
Yeah, I'm good mates with the guys
Ooh,
from Track,
nice,
and
nice.
they put some.
That's awesome. So this is a collaboration between Track and Beak, and it's called Nova. It's 8%, and it's a single hop dipper, which is quite unusual. And it's a new variety or experimental variety from New Zealand called NZH 101. I've been drinking it for a while. Head retention's not really stuck around much, but on the nose, this is a really like intense, even for New Zealand, kind of like hop profile on this one. Just mega. It's got the grapey, limey thing, which is kind of that instant
Signature.
giveaway that it's New
Yeah.
Zealand, but it's got a really strong kind of like citrus, like breakfast juice kind of pithy, citrusy kind of note in there as well. So it's almost like a
Like
little bit of that
grapefruit?
kind of,
Like pink
yeah, a bit
grapefruit?
of grapefruit. It's almost like a bit of that kind of dank, kind of old school West Coast thing mixed with New Zealand hop.
It
Aroma.
looks like a glass of orange juice.
And it does
Yeah,
look
it
like breakfast
does,
juice
doesn't
as
it?
well
It
at the minute,
does.
doesn't it? Like, especially with
Yum,
no head left on it. But
8%, and it's
Drink
very
that in your
bright.
morning Teams meeting,
Yeah.
and no one's going to question you.
to be fair, like flavour wise, it's not far off breakfast juice either. It's full on, like, you know, really
Tom's giving us the
citrusy.
secrets here.
Yeah, there's there's that kind of like grapefruity, pithy kind of slight bitterness. It's fairly bitter for a dipper from Track. You know, a lot of them are very, very soft, sort of low IBUs, but this one's a little bit more bitter. Really nice. I love the hop flavour from this beer. So it's again getting the full on kind of grapey gooseberry New Zealand character, but
would you
with
buy that hop?
citrus.
Check.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super intense. It's like really punchy. There's a little bit of that kind of like diesely Rawaka kind of character in there as well. So it's got a little bit of that kind of dankness that you get from that. Yeah, I think there's some lovely flavour, and this is like really punchy flavour wise. And I think maybe if it was given the kind of gold top treatment, it might kind of soften it off a little bit and just make it a little bit smoother tasting. But it's very nice nonetheless. So yeah, lovely beer. All of the 10th anniversary beers have been great. So if you can get hold of any of them still, I would recommend it.
Tricky, out of 5?
I would go, bearing in mind the previous scores, I think I'd do 3.8 for this one.
Oh,
Wow, okay.
that's low.
Lovely. I'll tell Sam about that on Tuesday.
3.8 still a strong score.
We had Matt on the podcast, didn't we?
Really? Matt Dutton, yeah.
He was a fucking legend.
Yeah.
He's a good lad.
Some of the information he gave us was absolute. Bearing in mind, that's like maybe a year and a bit
He
ago.
sent us all a massive box of dippers to drink through.
Yes,
the
he
podcast
Yeah,
as
that
well,
was the
so
best night. That was one
literally
of
all
It
dippers.
was up there
Nothing
with
else.
it was up there with Emperor's Brewery, where we just
That
get
was
absolutely
fucking banging.
wrecked. Yeah.
I did back when we Wander Beyond. We did craft brews with a view, and we sent the lads like 12 cans, but because we were Wander, nothing was less than like 11%. And I can remember kind of like supping this gently, looking at the two fellas, going, "Oh no, we are in too deep here, aren't we?"
Luckily, Tom, we're all
Yes, I'm banging
professionals.
Absolutely.
Total.
Seasoned professionals.
Seasoned.
Okay.
Alcoholics.
Or pickled might be a more
All
appropriate.
I'm going to say is I've been getting some shit off of my podcast host colleagues recently.
Damn right.
For saying that I don't like something and then proceeding to buy loads of them.
Yes,
I
picked up
don't
on
drink
that.
Impies. I've just bought 30.
I don't like MPs. And then he sends us
I don't.
pictures of like his entire MP selection. I was like,
If
boy
you,
who
if
says
you
doesn't
give me
like
a
MPs.
moment,
Yes,
if you give me
Chris.
a moment to be
he's
able
been
to
educated.
explain,
Educated.
I am a scientist. This is purely for research purposes. But what I am doing is exactly the same as what I did with Simcoe, where I didn't like Simcoe. Then I had some beers with Simcoe, and I realised not all Simcoe is created equal. Okay? And in the same way, I'm assuming that not all dippers...
No, you were just always wrong, Chris, on that.
Yeah. Take your fucking solar panels and fuck off, alright? And I mean these ones here, dipshit. So, this is what I'm drinking.
Is it an Omnipolo?
It is an Omnipolo made with douche, and it is a double
14%. It's fucking
Yes,
14.
It's a dinky one.
I can't believe.
It is a double barrel aged Angram blueberry cheesecake stout.
Yes.
Holy fuck is all I've got to say about this beer. Oh my good lord, it is literal. It's like drinking treacle.
Yes.
Okay, you get this wonderful, like, you get the blueberry flavour coming through, and it's quite subtle.
Did you
based
say
on...
blueberry flavour?
I said
Yeah, it's
you
good
say-
blueberry.
Trigger alert.
I said blueberry cheesecake stout is what I said, Tom.
Tom,
And
can you not get
flashbacks.
blueberry out of your beers? No.
Can you
Well,
not get any blueberry?
that's a great question there, Andy. Mate. That's a great question there.
It's almost like we spoke about this previously, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the main thing that I love about this beer is you can drink it, and as it goes through the warming up steps, okay, it changes dramatically. I'm currently at a stage where all I can taste, literally all I can taste, is a blueberry cheesecake with just a shot of something bourbon on the side. This is absolutely fucking phenomenal. There is a reason why this is 17 quid a bottle. Okay? Now, I have to say, I wouldn't ordinarily pay 17 quid a bottle for a beer, but fuck me, this is worth it.
Yeah.
Now
That's
we have a thing with beer merchants
I
whereby
mean, given your Yorkshire heritage, I can only assume you were having a stroke while you were putting that order
Hey,
in or
it's
something.
Christmas.
It's
It was
close.
Christmas. I think he
It's
was like,
close.
I think it
Both
was
his
like,
hands are on
fuck it,
view. I don't think
fuck
he's having
it,
a
it was
stroke.
Christmas.
I'll be
I meant
honest,
when he did the beer merchant's order, it was
was
just
close.
accidentally ticked it.
the,
Parkinson's kicked
the
in.
wife told me I'm not allowed an Xbox Series X, so I figured, fuck it, I'll spend that money on beer instead. This beer will change your perception of what reality is. Okay, it is.
Can't
it
do
is,
17 quid a bottle, mate. Sorry,
It's fucking.
too-
No, that's not even the most expensive one I bought.
Dude, you've changed.
I mean,
I
I
have
want to
changed.
see God for 17 quid.
3.8
This-
on Untapped.
It's on the
This
Apollo.
is
Yeah.
fucking brilliant.
Good.
It's thick. It's fruity. It's very alcoholic, as you can imagine.
Yeah, 14%.
But it's also got a subtlety of flavour which comes through really well. You get the cheesecake, you get that lactose, you get that wonderful kind of base flavour that comes through, and then everything just builds off of it. I'm going to be utterly fucked.
You're gonna
when I finish
smash?
drinking.
Yeah,
When I-
in this
when I-
pod, you'll
I'm
be
gonna
like,
be fucking arseholed. But I
One of
don't
them
care
is-
because this is quite literally one of the most mind-blowing
Tricky, you better take
impy
over the
stouts
questions.
I've had for a while. This is absolutely
I'll do the outro,
amazing.
Yeah.
So good. It's so thick. If the final gravity of this beer is anything less than 1080, I'll be surprised.
Yeah. I was
It's
thinking
so
10,
thick,
30,
and
10,
it's
40.
it's a cracker. And bearing in mind, boys, everybody who's going 70 quid, I got 2 bottles.
I know you did. I knew that you bought another one that was more expensive.
Yes, I did. Oh wait, there. Do you want to
Well
see the one
done.
that's more expensive?
Yes. No. Are you going to keep that for a commercial?
I'm cracking this one at 10 o'clock on
right,
Christmas
okay.
Day, mate.
Yeah.
What, in the morning?
Yeah.
What's that?
Nice.
33.
Is it literally a breakfast stout?
What is it? 3 times 3? What? 3 times 3?
3 times 3. yeah.
Imperial Stout on the side project, 3 Sons, Private Press, Horus, Angry Chair, Phase 3. 12%, but I don't give a shit. This is
That's perfect.
supposedly,
That is Christmas Day beer,
supposedly
Chris.
amazing.
Christmas Day beer. Defo.
So yes, I'm going to sit here and drool, eat my pizza while I drink this beer, because fuck me, that is phenomenal.
Are you drinking that tonight or Christmas Day?
What, the can?
No, the 3 times 3. That's Christmas Day.
Oh, that's Christmas Day, mate.
Yeah.
While the wife is making bacon, sausage and egg, I'm going to be drinking that.
Well,
What's
I think,
bottle
I
of
think
Tamiflu?
Rob Muir's passed his verdict on your...
20 quid? For Tama? No, Tamiflu.
Yeah, but I don't really like whiskey, Ron.
Do you know? Well, you say that, Chris, but everything else you says you don't like, and then
No,
I think-
trust me, I don't like
the
whiskey.
whiskey
Makes-
hobby starts here, Chris.
the
Yeah.
whiskey makes me violent. I don't
Give
do
him
whiskey.
3 months, he's going to be buying like 8 bottles of whiskey
No.
I'm already a member of the Malt
violent.
Whiskey Society.
in the interest
Oh.
of science.
I only joined the Malt Whiskey Society so I can get my dad a bottle of scotch every year.
Nice. A good bottle.
No, cast strength, like fucking straight.
That's what I'm
straight
saying.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
yeah.
shit. So yeah, this is fucking amazing. Out of 5, I will give this a solid 4.5.
He's talking cash. Cash strength. Well,
And I'm just about to crack an Omnipollo beer as well.
Oh man, there's something very, very special about Omnipollo. But I've got to show this one off because this is kind of one of those flexes. I bought a load of stuff from Pahala as well.
well done.
And this is their chocolate porter.
What dark beers, Chris? Good.
Yeah, I know. I just decided I need to train my palate and also get fucked quite regularly. So yes,
Oh, well.
this is
We know,
amazing.
we know what
Honestly,
to send Chris Beer Mail now. All empty
Tom.
stouts.
I wish you could taste this, mate, rather than that Foster's.
I mean, I've now moved on to a very nice hazy pale from Aberdale. So
There you go.
the growler's done, so I've got
Good,
to move
good,
on to
good.
some
Move on.
others.
Speaking of moving on, shall we get
Yes.
into the other
Go on,
questions?
check.
We
Um,
should.
I'm going
No,
for
no.
a piss.
Now that-
So, we've mentioned true to type as a terminology, Tom. Sorry to go straight back into the technical stuff, but yeah, we've used this terminology true to type a couple of times. Do you want to just like maybe explain what you mean by that first of all, but then also following up on that, how do you actually maintain a true to type profile for hops between harvests? You've already mentioned blending and so on and so forth, but do you guys kind of, are you doing that on an analytical basis or like sensory or a combination of the two? How does that sort of process work as far as trying to make sure that you do have that consistency for the product year on year, given all the stuff we've talked about in terms of hop variability and so on and so forth?
I think the thing is with hops, and if you talk to like a maltster and also guys who are from the yeast background, is it's about 50% scientific and the rest is feel.
Yeah.
And so when you're brewing with it and you're smelling it and you're rubbing it in your hands, like that's how you're going to be able to get like the aroma and the taste and things like that. But also you need to be able to make it consistent alpha. It doesn't matter if you're getting Galaxy and it smells like papaya and it smells like mango, but you're only getting like 3% alpha out of it at the end of the days. But also on the other side of things, it doesn't matter if you're getting 25% alpha out of it and it smells like absolute shit. You can't put that out of the same quality of hops. Yeah. So it is mainly about the blending, but it is also about seeing where we're in a unique position as Barth Haas of owning a lot of the farms or having like long-term contracts with the farms that we can ask them to move where the hops are grown and getting certain rainfalls and certain like sunlight, because that's one of the things that are most important for hops. You look at the two bands of hops that are grown across the world. You've got one that goes across like Yakima in the north of America and a little bit of Canada, across the bottom of the UK, and then across Germany and round. And then you got the other one down across Australia. And South African hops were amazing, and I love them, and I wish we could get more of them, but all the hop fields are owned by AB. So you can't get anything unless you're...
Yeah, there seemed to be a brief period where they were kind of becoming available, and then it just sort of stopped.
They're all owned by Anheuser-Busch because, of course, it was SAB Miller, so South African brewers, who owned the entirety of South Africa.
Mad.
And so African Queen, which is one of the... I don't even know if that hop was that good, but it's just such a hop that I can't get hold of physically.
Yeah.
And I really want it again. But that just goes all into AB beers, which is why you saw it pop up in a couple of Camden beers.
I was going to say, so is that just going into their sort of subsidiary craft brands then, I guess, and that's it?
Pretty much.
Doesn't go anywhere else.
The terroir we talk about quite a lot, and the difference between, like what you were just saying about the New Zealand flavour and the Australian flavour of that big, punchy New Zealand having that absolute smack in the teeth, white grape and white wine.
Yeah,
lime.
Lime.
And
the Australian, the papaya, mango, bitter pineapple, smack in the teeth, and then
hot bun.
You try the German sort of like spice, that little, that little tickle, and then you try the Americans, which tend to be a lot more grapefruity, and then you have the English hops, which are
earthy, floral,
also there. But then that can also change around the end of a valley. So it is all about kind of the blending to make it true to type. So kind of what I was saying earlier, it's about making that hop that you buy taste and smell as close to what you expect it to do.
Interesting. So, follow-up question. Is that process much more difficult with certain varieties? And I think there was a specific leaning towards Galaxy with this one because, homebrewers will see year-to-year variation in
Tricky.
Different
tell
hops.
them what we've had with Galaxy. Was it 2014 was like the original juicy fruit?
2016, I think, was the kind of like
I was saying to Chris about this
it.
when he sent me through. Again, I'll look behind the curtain to the viewers and the listeners. It's like I was sent these questions and I got this and I went, "Oh, this is a good story." This is. So, Galaxy was originally developed as a lager hop. It's massively high alpha. It's 19% alpha on a
Yeah.
bad year, so it's meant to just be there. And then people go, "This is good."
Yeah.
So I won't say what brewery was who contracted the entirety of Australia to put it into a beer, but it's one that rhymes with
Foster's?
Schminnis.
No.
And they had a beer that was called something House, and then there was a number. So they were
Really?
taking the entirety of Galaxy. Everything in that was going to Schminnis. And so they dropped that.
Really?
It flooded the market in 2018, and we all went, "This is amazing. This is the best hop ever." The demand fucking skyrocketed, and so all the guys who were planting like immature hops. So a hop plant to come up to maturation takes 3 to 4 years normally, and they were harvesting hops at
We're
a
not
year.
harvesting late as well to get the maximum weight.
Well, they're actually harvesting in 2 windows, but that's slightly different. It was about the fact that the plants weren't mature, so they were just pumping out a lot more alpha without actually any of the nuances, and so the cones were a lot smaller than what you wanted. So you were just getting a lot of the bitterness, and so that's why we had in like 21. It was like,
21,
this is shit.
Yeah.
This is really, really bad. And then it was pulled mostly off the market in 22, and that's why you've seen it get steadily better every single year from that, because the plants are getting more mature. Because it takes from, I mean, we talked earlier about the new varieties. It tends to take between 5 and 10 years for a new variety to go from germination initially.
The demand essentially outstripped the capacity to deliver the quality product that it started
and
out
the farms made the wrong decision to be able to just ship out as much as they could.
Almost destroyed Galaxy as a brand, I would say, as a hop.
And now you try most single hop Galaxy beers, but the thing is with Galaxy, I don't think it's a great single hop beer. It works incredibly well with other things with background. I've already said earlier about my love of Enigma, and I think it's one of the most underrated hops because it's a beautiful, like, rounded. You get the mango, you get the papaya.
See, Galaxy,
it just works.
Galaxy, would you keep it to the dry hop rather than anywhere near hot side? Or would
So
you?
I would either do complete hot side or dry hop. I wouldn't try and mix it. I think there's too much of one thing going on there. It makes an incredible early edition because that's what it was bred to do.
Yeah.
That you can just, get 19% alpha out of it. You can boil it for 90 minutes and get your IBUs up.
Okay.
Or as a late whirlpool, but you need something else to go alongside of it. I think there's other hops that also need that. El Dorado is one that I always mention as well, but I think you need something else behind it. Whereas Enigma, I think Enigma can be the perfect single hop beer because it's just got the mango, the papaya, it's got those citrus flavors as well, and it just adds certain. Eclipse is closer to Galaxy. So I would probably put that with some Mosaic or even something European on that side in the bittering, and then put that in. I mean, all these are my very personal opinions, so let's not.
Pearl's a great bittering hop to go with these hops, specifically with Australian. Pearl at the beginning seems to lift all of the Australian hops.
Ella or Topaz as well. Like, they've just got that little bit of the extra compared to like using a European bittering.
We've talked about this many, many, many times on the podcast, Tom. And I'm surprised I'm still sober. But also, update, licorice notes coming through on this beer. Very happy, man. One of the things that we've talked about is utilising sort of old world noble kind of German hops specifically to provide a scaffold to build those new world hops up.
You're taking words out of my mouth. Absolutely. Like,
he was earlier on. He was talking about what do you call it, the Bramlin Cross and your Idaho 7. It's just like mixing the two different type of world hops.
Totally. Always using them as a scaffold, it's phenomenal. You get so much more out of the New World stuff.
Parto, or even going for some Centennial early in the boil or something like that, having that background and then building on that.
Choose your notes carefully at the top end, though, is all I would say, because you can quite easily get lost in the sort of the lingering woodiness, or especially if you're using an English hop.
I don't know if I goes.
No, but you can get lost depending on what you put late on.
I'm sure, like Williams Brothers, for their Joker, they put some like English sort of hops going in, but then they've got like Citra going on as well. And so when you drink
I
it,
mean,
you're getting...
Joker's Galaxy. It's Australian.
There you go.
Like it's fully Australian. I think they've got
fully
a little bit. Yeah.
Serious now, right? Okay, so it's totally changed.
That it changes every time. Like they're just trying to produce a better product. I'm pretty sure it's mainly Australian on that front.
Cool.
There's so many great hops out there.
But every time I drink with Chris Williams, I always ended up in a very bad state. So I might not be a reliable narrator for that.
We're spoiled at the moment. I want to do a little bit of waxing lyrical about this, because we are genuinely spoiled with just the variety and with the ability to mix all of these hops up, especially if you've got the understanding to be able to know that stick Pearl in the boil, stick something like Bramling Cross at like 15 minutes, and then bang some Idaho 7 in at 5, then Whirlpool with something New World, and then dry hop with something big and punchy and huge, and you're going to get a completely different beer. Obviously, I mean, that stands to reason, but you're going to get something where those later hops really shine a lot more. I think that's important for a lot of people to understand, because I know people are putting Galaxy in at 60 minutes.
That's what I was saying. Well, it's like
pissing money away is all they're doing there.
I mean,
but that's he says that's what it's designed for.
But I can tell you somebody right now on a podcast, Tom, who you're looking at with a beard, who's Scottish, who happened to bitter with Simcoe.
I had a phone call once from a brewery that will go unnamed, but it's fucking Jack from Tartarus, who went, Tom, the Sabro you've sold me tastes like nothing. What the hell's happening? And I went, this crop here is actually pretty damn good. It's less coconutty, more limey. Like, I'm thinking it's good. And he went, well, I added it in and then I boiled it for 90 minutes and it didn't taste like anything. And it was like, you did what?
He boiled it for 90 minutes. Like,
I think you may have found the root of the issue there.
So their mental imperial stout, I forget the name of it, was bitter juicing like 40 kilos of Sabro.
Wow.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Well,
might be the most expensive bittering charge ever used there.
But do you know what? Yes. Like, can we talk about this? Right. See different hops, they will bring different bittering. It doesn't matter if you boil them for 90 minutes, you're still going to get.
This is what we were saying before. This is like the Bramling Cross into bittering, like that little bit of blackcurrant, that little bit of dark fruits that you get does add that little bit extra. Whereas Magnum is just clean,
super clean,
nice, easy. And personally, that's what I always just use as bittering.
Yeah, Magnum. Flex. Magnum was a big favourite.
I think there's a couple of things going on, isn't there? There's some flavours that will be persistent to an extent, and then there's the nature of the bittering flavour itself as well. Like,
but how much
harsh bitterness or a smoother bitterness or a cleaner bitterness?
Yeah.
You know? So there's a lot.
Guys,
of
how much did that Simcoe just absolutely skew that hop
it
tester?
Changed that beer completely.
It was ridiculous. And I was like, this small amount at like 60 minutes is not gonna do anything. It
changed that beer completely.
But Simcoe is a traditional like dual purpose hop, right? So it's not like it's not used for bittering, but it might just have a particular character when you do it.
It's dual purpose in the same way that the BMW X5 is dual purpose.
No, there's loads of American breweries that will use Simcoe.
It completely skewed that beer to the extent where using it for the hop tester was the worst idea.
Here
ever.
we go.
Here we go.
Add some Galaxy.
House.
Fucking right.
Okay, so Ivan works. He's in Perth in Australia. and he is a massive proponent of Australian hops, unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
But he's also the guy who puts Galaxy in at 60 minutes because he's weird as fuck.
No, but
Well, it's going to be a lot cheaper in Australia than it is over here. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. He's a very, very strange character, is Ivan, but we love him because he's very, very strange. But he's also got Yorkshire heritage, so don't look down
He's
on
okay,
him too
is
much.
what we're saying.
He's all right, yeah.
He gets an automatic pass for that, doesn't he, Chris?
He does, totally. But can we just jump to the last question before we do question 11, just because Ivan's on? So my conversation with Ivan went like this. Essentially, there are huge differences between hop harvests in terms of flavour that they provide. Specifically looking at Galaxy, right? 2016 Galaxy was absolutely phenomenal. And I'll give you some of the stats. There was record rainfall, and it was very, very hot with an average summer temperature of 22.9. Bearing in mind the numbers, I'm very data driven. Okay? And then 2023 or 2022, whichever one it was, Galaxy was a bag of harshly bitter crap. Average temperature was 21.9, so it was lower, and there was a lot less rainfall. Okay, I'm glad Ivan's here for this one. 2024 is very similar to 2016, which was the de facto chef's kiss Galaxy. But that has also rainfall very similar and temperatures very similar. So how do factors like rainfall, average temperature, amount of sunlight, and all that kind of stuff, how do they affect aroma, bitterness, and flavour? And I know that you're a scientist, so give me the full biochemical part of this one. Fuck everybody else who's in the podcast. It's just you and me talking, Tom.
So this isn't really a biochemical background.
Of course it is.
It's the way that the hops protect themselves is by adding wax to the outside, which then takes away from the production of betas. But the alpha's always there because the alpha is essentially there as an antiseptic to stop things eating it and getting through. So it will increase the bitterness on that side of things. But you will lose the aroma if it's in a stressed position, and it will be smaller as well. I disagree with you on 23. I thought
Pizza's
23
here.
was
I'll be back in a sec.
Pizza's here. I disagree with you on 23. I thought 23 was pretty good. 22 was fucking shocking. But by them adding that wax on the outside of them, again, to protect it, you are going to lose the aromas and the big flavors that we're expecting. So the rainfall is going to be a huge proponent of the flavors. But because Australia irrigates, compared to like the Germans, it's not going to kind of be as much of a issue as like 2 years ago when Germany got no rainfall and all like noble hops were absolutely awful. So it's less an issue in Australia, but you're pretty right on that. But yeah, the rainfall and temperatures are going to massively affect it. But we keep trying to kind of make it so it
So I guess
stays
the previous issues that we talked about were the major driving factor as opposed to climatic issues, I guess.
It was like...
It's laws. It comes down to law. Does it?
Say what, sorry?
Well, it comes down to law. Like, if you're not allowed to irrigate in Germany, then that's going to have a massive impact on your hop run.
Which is why, going back to what I was saying earlier, why we're going to see Slovenian hops going to be getting bigger and bigger. And I worry about the German hops because they are legally not allowed.
That's mad.
To irrigate.
Yeah.
But it's the story of the head brewer of Lowenbrau. I think it was 97, 98. He was found to be adding zinc oxide into his yeast, which we all do.
Yeah.
Because we should, because it's a great...
Yeah.
And he hung himself in the brewery.
No way.
What?
Really?
Jesus.
Well, that's
because
just
he was going to be prosecuted and he would never work again.
That's bonkers.
Wow.
Like that's how it works.
It's not like you're
When-
adding
when
something
high
that isn't
school
there
books,
in the first place.
Yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
adding more of it, you know? That's absolutely ludicrous.
I mean, that story's been told to me by 3 hands, so I've never looked it up, but
Yeah,
it's been told to me by 3 Germans. So
that is insane.
Well, that's sad.
Kind of following on from the
And
discussion
on that
of
note,
suicide, no. Following on from the discussion
Yeah.
of the impact of climate on hops and stuff and all the rest of it. How are we doing like this year?
yeah, that's good.
For especially like noble varieties and stuff that have been struggling. I think you mentioned earlier that they are doing better at the moment, or
So-
have you got like a current update
Yeah,
on
what's
the
the Barth
crop
Haas
as it stands?
update?
So this year is doing a lot better than it has been in previous years. The best year that we've had in the past 5 years was probably 2021, where it was so good. We actually had separate varieties that we didn't even blend in. We just went, this is so good, we're going to make a
2021.
separate variety to be able to sell on from that. But it's looking a lot better. The British is down again and
Yeah.
probably will continue to be down and for the next 10 years until
Hop
we
harvest
evolve better
in
technology.
Scotland, Tom. Hop harvest.
Yeah,
in
we're
Scotland.
gonna push it, mate.
Right,
Like, we need to
yeah.
start investing
No,
now, Andy,
no.
mate. We need to...
No. Hop harvest this year in Scotland was absolutely atrocious. The Fuggles was decimated, and the Saz had that downy mildew nonsense. You know, that sort of coloration.
fuck it.
It
So I
was
used to
a
be
bad-
a little bit involved over in the Manchester hop project, and it was quite interesting that the hops grown in Manchester had this lovely Brazil nut flavour to them.
amazing.
So it worked in sours.
Mm.
Oh, that slight sweetness and slight nuttiness was incredible. I mean, ESB, but you needed that big like backbone behind it. If you were just trying to make a 3.5% pale,
Yeah,
it wasn't great.
but
But
kind of
across
sour.
the world, the Yank harvest is going to be pretty stable. They're actually ripping up citra plants because other varieties are getting more popular, and of course, we're running on a 3-year lag,
Yep.
essentially. So, but 70% of the hops grown in the States have been citra for the past 10 years. So
Wow.
it's going to
Yeah.
be changing. It's not a bad thing. It's just a different thing.
Yep.
And seeing the Australian harvest, they're going to be continue doing it in mint. The thing that I'm kind of intrigued by at the moment is looking at places like Spain, who are doing like hydroponically grown hops. So they essentially get 3 seasons in a year. So they can harvest 3 times in a year and being able to control completely what it tastes like and what it is.
Right. This is
And-
new. This is new information.
Yeah,
right?
we've never heard
brand new
about this.
information. Yeah.
It's a very small project right now, but it is going to be growing, quite a lot over the next couple of years. So I'm very intrigued by how that's going to be able to work out.
I think that opens the door as a project concept, as a proof of concept.
Yeah.
That opens
Is it-
the door to a lot of other places. If you ever go
Is it
somewhere
like
like
watery
Turkey,
tomatoes?
you fly over Turkey and it is just polytunnels. But as far as you can see,
Yeah.
and there's an awful lot of countries that
Oh,
can
farming.
that have that infrastructure. So if like this Spanish project succeeds in kind of specialising in hop production, who's to say that other countries don't follow suit? And that may just start to generate all sorts of interesting and wonderful options.
So to answer Maverick's question, on our side, there's not many that we say long or short. So long as in we've got more than we need. Short is we don't have as much as what we need. We haven't got many that we're long on, and we've got a lot that we're short on. But they're the ones that are very traditional hops. So the price of Centennial, Cascade, Chinook, Columbus is going to go up massively because there's not enough for demand. There's not many off the top of my head that I can say are long. Citra will be available on the spot market, but there's not really many on top of that. If you're talking on the more macro side, it's not really what I've got my expertise is in, but certain of the very high alpha ones that are just made for those big macro breweries, I know we are slightly long gone. So that's your Hercules, your Polaris, your Arameus, like these big, like clean 25% alpha hops. But yeah, on the hops that we use day to day, we're probably closer to being pretty damn short.
What are the like big movers as far as hops that are kind of going up in terms of demand versus the ones that are
Centennial?
going down?
Centennial, I thought that was going to be like, I love Centennial, but my love of Cascade is more than Centennial, of course, and Centennial was made to be like super Cascade. And I thought that would be gently dying off as other things like HBC 522 came in. But fucking hell, like the demand for Centennial in the past year must have doubled, tripled.
West Coast.
Yeah, West Coast and West Coast. But
Centennial's a phenomenal hop.
I've literally... That's my Pomona is a West Coast. It's a Centennial. Yeah, they were there next week.
Nice.
So yeah,
but we kind of all thought that was going to die off and stay there and like not get rid of.
Pine Beast, man. Piney.
And then Columbus and Chinook. It's been the West Coast hops that we've seen an absolute massive uptick in the past year. And
is anyone pushing any newer, like brand new varieties that are more leaning into that West Coast kind of style because of that?
You've got HBC 522 that was introduced 2 years ago, and no one wanted it, and now everyone's asking for it.
Right.
It was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
So we just ripped that out. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like, oh, fucking hell.
Too late, guys.
I think this kind of goes into kind of a general market. I'm not sure if you guys have kind of seen the same trends that I have, but we've gone from like having the big 6% to 8% juicy, thick boys are wanting it to be as tropical as fuck, to actually going to like a 4.5 to 5.5% nice, drinkable, little bit of bitterness on there. IBU's about 30, maybe 40, but still having those flavors.
I think there's commercial drivers for that as well, with the price of beer currently, and people going into bottle shops and even craft beer sort of nerds like ourselves are looking at cans and going, can I really justify spending 8-9 quid on a dipper versus 4 or 5 quid
17 quid on Imperial Stout,
or even more in some cases like that. So
think about it.
Market as well, isn't it?
Though, boys.
I'll take your word for it.
Always for the MPs.
In the UK, I think duty's a factor as
Chris,
well,
the
right?
MP champion of the Hop Edition.
That's right. And it's taxation does. You look at Germany back in the day and how that impacted, and like taxation always impacts beer production.
Yeah.
And we're already seeing it with the 3.5% low, 3.5%.
The costing of everything.
The quality of 3.5% beers, I think, over the past year has absolutely skyrocketed.
Oh,
like
massive.
The fact,
no doubt.
like a year and a half ago, a 3.5% beer was just a blonde on cask. And now you're seeing 3.5% beers on keg and having them going,
Lager.
oh, this is fucking mint. This I'll have 5
something,
or 6
Tom?
of them.
If you go back through our back catalogue, you will find we did a low ABV.
We did.
We did a load of talk about a low ABV.
Me and Chris were right into that.
Rabbit hole, mate. I went right the way down the rabbit hole. What do I put in it? What's my malt bill? What do I brew? What yeast do I use? And I think I'm going back through a very addled memory at the moment. I'm fairly sure mine was 2.6 or 2.7.
7, yeah.
And drank like a 4.5% and was really good. So it can be done.
It was. Do you know what that beer was? It was I can have this during the day and then still deal with the kids sort of beer. You know, where you weren't like absolute banjaxed from having a beer and then being like, screw the kids.
So you look like 13, 14 years ago when I was first starting working in pubs. I was working in a pub in York called the Rook and Gaskell. Amazing pub if you ever find yourself there. But I can remember us having a 4.5% beer on it. It might have even been Rooster's Yankee. And like the old boys going, oh, that's a bit spicy for a school night, that isn't it? 4.5%. And then we've just gently accelerated off. And now we've come back down. And I think there's making a 3.5% beer tastes good, great.
Yeah,
there's a lot of breweries who are now doing it, and do you know what?
There's
I'm
a lot
very
of
much
money
enjoying
coming
it.
back to the whole like American versus British brewing kind of discussion we were having earlier. It's like, yeah, maybe America has got this like, you know, hold on doing those big like super hop forward high strength beers,
boys.
but I reckon there's probably a hell of a lot of English breweries or British breweries that are doing the session strength sub 4% beers a hell of a lot better than anything you would ever get in America, because you probably can't even buy it in America because most breweries will not be making that. So,
but then also you look at the Europeans, and so there's a bar in Sheffield called the Harlequin. An amazing pub if you ever find yourself there. Just reopened under new management with guys who own Rutland and Macrow.
Is that near the train station?
No, it's down towards it's by Fat Cat. So
right, I got you.
It's sort of Kellam Island technically. But it's just bordering Kellam Island, and they have their house lagers a 3.2% Czech lager. And I sat there on a Sunday, and I woke up on the Monday morning, and I had 25 transactions. And I don't know if I drank all of them, but I certainly felt like I had. And it was just
well done.
It was perfectly made, and it was just absolutely fantastic beer. And to be able to do that at 3.2%, I think it's a remarkable.
It's good drinkability then.
The other one was I was at the Scottish Beer Awards, which is if you can ever blag your way into it, it's fucking mint. but you had to do if you were drinking the alcoholic, it was 50p donation to charity. And I'm a Yorkshireman, so I was drinking a non-alcoholic beer. And the quality was amazing. And if you told me 6-7 years ago that I would be drinking non-alcoholic beer out of choice, I think I would have laughed in your face. Like Williams Brothers, we were talking earlier about them, their alcohol-free beers, absolutely exceptional. The fierce stuff is amazing. You've got Jump Ship doing some incredible, even Stewart are doing some amazing non-alcoholic beer. But the best thing was I was drinking with my big boss, and he turned to me 8 pints deep going, how are you still holding it together? And I went, because I've been on a non-alcoholic. And he looked at me and went, oh no, because he had not been.
He was in a competition with you. He was thinking he was trying to keep up with you. And then he was like, oh, fucked up here.
The issue is
that one, isn't he?
with trying to brew non-alcoholic on a homebrew is you are essentially making a petri dish.
Yeah,
because it's sweet and you've got a lot going on in there. It's without adding potassium sorbate
that's
or
why they
sodium
can't basically
sulfate.
sell their low alcohol yeast on a homebrew market because of that very reason. Like, it just opens too many doors to people poisoning
when you're
themselves.
talking to Red Willow, who their non-alcoholic is absolutely exceptional. They're pasteurizing by hand because that's the safest way they can produce.
Well, we had WHC on, didn't we? And they were talking about Krebs negative yeast and bringing them in. So they're producing everything else, but they're not producing the alcohol. So it's literally a 0-0 beer, which is
the same problem though, right? Still,
well, yeah.
If you take it over 15 IBUs and you can sort of pasteurize, it's going to take a lot of the issues down.
What
temperature? It's still very worrying.
What temperature are we talking?
67, isn't it, for pasteurization?
67 for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Or 84 for 20 seconds, 30 seconds.
I thought it was 45, but yeah.
Why? No. Just no, let's not do that.
Just fucking produce a 2.7 low ABV.
Yeah.
I'll send you a recipe.
Yeah. Exactly.
2.5%, 20 IBUs. You're going to be sweet as nut.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah, totally.
I
But
agree.
remember the salt, boys. Remember the salt. It's
Yeah,
an
to offset
the
absolute
body.
requirement.
I'll tell you who you need to get on. Jack Walker, who's the head brewer of Azvex, who is a massive home brewer and would love. And the way he brews beer makes blood come out of my nose.
Tom,
Like,
hook us up.
I
Hook
do
us up.
quite happily. He's
Hook
a
us up,
lovely
mate.
bloke, and he'll quite happily.
Chris,
But
Chris, you get in touch.
Yeah, make
his
a note of
dippers,
that.
I think he adds.
Fuck off, make a
Well-
note.
I think he adds like 12 grams per litre of salt to his dippers.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It's to give that slight salinity that
But
because
we-
all beer should be about balance.
12
Like,
grams
that's
per
what-
litre,
that's
that's
what
just
makes a good-
nuts.
That's a
No,
lot.
that's a lot of salt.
But he's adding 30% oats. So
No,
you've got that
that's
sweetness.
goes territory.
And so you've got to have that
beyond
with
goes
the massive
territory.
malt.
We're
And
0.2
it's
grams, 0.2 grams per litre is what we're like.
I'll
it's
put you in contact with Jack. And
5
again,
grams
his
is
brewing
what we're
techniques,
aiming at
blood,
the minute to get the
blood
chloride.
will
That
come
must
out
be
your
that must be
nose and
like
eyes.
per gallon or something rather than per litre or even
Wow.
more than that.
So we're
surely.
0.2 per 0.2 per litre.
It's
Yeah.
going to be good. It's going to
Fair,
be good, whatever it
that's-
is.
And
So,
anyway, we're breaching the 2.5 hour point here, but we've got one more question, haven't we?
One more
One more.
Shall
Tom,
we?
Tom, strap
Yeah.
in. Track and the Malt Miller have shown a novel use of incognito for dip hopping. Do me a favour, explain to people what, and me, because, I don't fucking know either. Are there any other examples of these products being used outside of the standard guidelines that have worked really well? Now, on the email that we had, you said alchemy, wizardry, and pushing back the foreskin. I'm completely, totally, and utterly,
It
yeah.
wasn't too far off that. The thing is, and it's something I've said several times, is that a lot of these products have been made for macro breweries. And then we've discovered little things. It's normally someone doing something wrong. So, for example, we have a product called Tetra Hop. I think it's available through Malt Miller, but it's mainly for commercial breweries. And that was originally developed as a post-fermentation bittering, just to adjust, plus or minus 6 IBUs. It was fucking awful at it. It was so harsh. But what people discovered is if you added 2 grams per hectoliter, it gave you these massive pillowy heads. So the only reason that any Vault City beer has a head is because of the amount of Tetra Hop they add to it. The only reason that any Holy Goat has head retention is because of Tetra Hop. The only reason that Balances beers have any head retention is
So if you get a
so
sour,
if you bring a sour, you can't really get that head retention. Add
yeah,
a little bit of Tetra Hop, and it'll give you this massive pillowy head. Hop Aid, which is something that we're trying to move into the homebrew market with, it's a byproduct of one of the other processes that we make of CO2 extract. And
flex.
we're going, what's this to do? And Hop Aid, it destroys the head in fermentation. So you can get about an extra 10 to 15% more beer into your fermenter. And then we found it actually helps head retention
Later on.
fermentation. And it's 20 odd quid for 2.5 litres. And the best reception, the best review of that I had was from the late great Roger Ryman, ex-head brewer of St. Austell, who went, the only reason that you know what Hop Aid is when you forget to use it, and it just blows off there everywhere. And one of the things I've been talking to Chris all week about is that quite a lot of the products that we have and that we use, they're all been designed for one purpose, and then we found it works a lot better in something else.
Yeah.
It's more about it's less science and more magic and more, alchemy. Tetrazase.
There you go, Ivan.
So it's less of planning for something and just, as you said, brewers they just say fuck it and see what will happen.
You can send them the most white papers and all of our technical specs and everything, and they'll sit there and go, yeah,
What's this?
we'll do it this way.
Literally.
And then if it doesn't work, they'll let you know. And if it does work, they normally do that for 2 years and then let you know.
Yeah, because they want those 2 years. That's what it is. I have to say that I didn't catch anything of the explanation about Galaxy, but I will listen back. The pizza was far more important. The beer's gone. My glass is still brown. What an amazing podcast, I have to say. Has anybody got any more questions, actually, before I close this one out? Because I have to say, that was superb. I really enjoyed
Yeah, it was
that.
really good.
I think we've fully exhausted the notes to such a level that can't think of anything else to ask, to be honest, because it's been such high quality content coming back from Tom. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
has,
for your
Tom.
answer.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I'll tell you, we're going to give you a shout in probably
It's
about
good,
another
I
8
hope.
months, Tom, and you can come back on.
Have you fancied it?
Because
I was expecting to be invited back as like the guest host along with you lads now.
Yes! Every week, right? Cool.
be a
Sign them
fill-in.
up.
I'm not sure if
One
we're
of us is
ready.
not here,
I'm not
Tom.
sure if we're ready to expand our hosts.
You could have come on for the Christmas special if you like.
If you want to come on for the Christmas special, Tom, which is going to be even more of a piss up than this one, you're more than welcome. But yeah, it's been superb, and I have learned quite a lot tonight. I've really enjoyed this one. Everybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Tom. You've
Very
been a
informative.
Superb guest.
Owen looks like he's 3/4 asleep. I've got to be honest.
I'm not making
He
the
was-
answer pie. No, I'm
Owen,
After
Owen
pie
was,
is gone.
remember, Owen didn't get a great sleep last night, and he walked 24,000 steps or so.
Yeah.
It's his fault for taking up the hobby of golf. Let's
Why
just
you don't
let's
play
put that
golf?
out
My
there.
fault.
Oh, but he didn't sleep well. That was the big problem.
Yeah,
Golf-
but you've
golf's
got
the issue.
kids. Nobody sleeps well when you've got kids.
Oh dear. Cool.
That's the way it is. So yeah. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I get to say it this time. Episode 104 in the bag. Tom, thank you for joining us. You've been an absolute superstar, and I realise there's been some restrictions placed upon you by your company, but at the same time, we appreciate all the information that you have given us. And if there's any new products that are coming out, drop me an email. Let me know. We'll announce them on here. Because to be fair, all of your products that I've used so far have
If
been
you need
exceptional.
anything tested as well, there are a variety of brewers.
We are
Well,
good
yeah,
at
so
testing.
good shout
Flavor
there.
wheels.
Good shout there,
Yeah,
Andy.
yeah. We
We are
are
good.
more than willing to do even an episode on breaking down a new hop. That would be fantastic.
We definitely will do that.
Yeah.
We've done it before, and we're good
We
at
have.
it.
Good.
Guys, I'm going to post the link pretty soon to the after party. Whilst I do that, I'm going to hand you over to Andy.
What?
Give us the outro.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right. So, guys, thank you, Tom. Yep. Thanks very much for coming on. I actually learned quite a lot of different things, especially how to use your advanced hop products and the different varieties of ways, and then also how, like, adding it early. That spectrum, adding it early into the fermenter was a pretty cool tip. And also, we talked a little bit about various kind of like different, I think, like maybe German or even like UK hops, how that impacts things, and then also blending with us, and then how you guys even come up with how you try and get that citra flavour sort of thing. So, thanks very much. It's a big eye opener, and just loads of little snippets. I think I'll need even to watch back and just take notes, because I think last time one of the other podcasts I get pulled up for taking notes during the podcast, and it was like, dude, just listen back. So I will do, actually. And Enigma, I think, was one that you'd noted as one that I should actually try a wee bit more on.
Right. So every single person who's here, like, Enigma is the most underrated New World
It's
hop.
shit.
It's amazing. Enigma is incredible, but it needs to be used in the right way, and it's just beautiful.
Well, I have to say, I've clearly never used Enigma in the right way because I fucking hate Enigma.
Yeah, Chris, I think that says more about you than anything else, but...
No, trust me, it totally
And on
does.
that note, we'll see you in the next pod.
Yeah, I think they just swapped me for you on hosting the pod, Tom, so have fun with the next 150 episodes, mate.
And next week we'll see Tom back on as a steady guest.
That's where we're going.
I'd like to welcome our new host, Tom, to the podcast.
Right, take it easy,
thanks
people.
very much. Cheers.
Have fun. We'll catch you later.
Bye.
We're out.
Bye.
Bye.